In news from out of nowhere on Wednesday, it was confirmed that some sort of snit had erupted in the ranks of Van Halen. The singer Sammy Hagar, the man who replaced the orchidaceous David Lee Roth as the band's frontman a decade ago, was off sulking or cursing or whatever in Hawaii, while the rest of the band was back in the studio with none other than David Lee Roth, who'd returned to the Van Halen ranks to cut a new tune for an upcoming greatest hits album. And might be sticking around, or not. The situation wasn't exactly clear, although record company sources told MTV News that Hagar was indeed history. From his palmy retreat, Sammy's minions issued a press statement citing the usual creative differences.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Back here where we need you. Back here where we need you. Yeah, we tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
A surprising amount of strong feeling was generated this week as word spread that singer Sammy Hagar was suddenly out of Van Halen, a band with which he'd made many a million-selling album, and that the other three members of the group were in a recording studio with David Lee Roth, the very guy Hagar had replaced in the lineup in 1985. Even after all those years, Roth, with his pure rhinestone persona and relentless showbiz pizzazz, still has many loyalists among the ranks of Van Halen fans. But by now, so does Hagar, as we learned in sampling reaction both in and out of the music business.
Let's face it, Van Halen was it.
When David Lee Roth was with them?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The return of David Lee Roth has rock fans around the world talking. Many artists who grew up with the early Van Halen are thrilled.
I like the Roth incarnation, the original one. That's when I turned on to them.
I think it's a lot. It's almost like Kiss coming back with full makeup.
Seeing Van Halen with Dave again would be the ultimate. I think it would do as well as Kiss, and I hope they want to do it. And more power to them and good luck.
Fans are divided on the switching singers and have been flooding MTV News with email about the story. David Lee Roth fans feel that the original Van Halen is the real Van Halen. But Hagar supporters say that their man was a better fit with the rest of the band and that David Lee Roth's ego was the cause of the original split.
Maybe it was because of Roth's showmanship and antics and everything that he always made a joke out of everything, that the musicianship was never quite respected except for Eddie, you know. But to me, it's like, that's the number one thing, and that's why I joined this band.
There's no Vegas trip to it anymore. You know, it's just pure music, and I think, you know, that to me is a little classier.
I'm here to tell you that it's a lot of BS. It's a lot of excuses that are being peddled because these guys couldn't get off their butt and make a record.
Back when they were making records, the David Lee Roth-fronted Van Halen recorded 6 albums with total sales topping 27 million. With Sammy Hagar at the mic, the band didn't do too shabbily either, selling 15 million copies of 4 studio albums and 1 live recording. So while loyal fans of both camps debate whether Roth's return is good or bad, 2 things seem certain. Van Halen will probably sell a whole lot more records, and Hagar's on hold.
I love Sammy. I don't know Dave, but I would have to say I prefer Van Halen with Dave. I'm sorry, Sammy.
No word yet on a possible Montrose reunion, but the official word from the Van Halen camp is that Hagar's departure is permanent. In a press statement, the veteran singer pronounced himself, quote, pissed, and feeling as though he'd been, quote, stabbed in the back. As for the group's surprise reunion with David Lee Roth after years of ill will, the official line is that they buried the hatchet in order to record a single new track for inclusion on an upcoming greatest hits album, not necessarily anything more. Hagar, for one, didn't buy this story and says it prompted him to quit the group. It also prompted a flurry of unkind parting shots, among them the bitter opinion that bands only resort to putting out greatest hits albums, quote, when they have nowhere else to go.
It's Van Halen, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, Dennis. Hi, Wolfie. Hi, hon. I think we're here to present Best Male Video of the Year award.
Okay,
Right?
Dave's line.
Oh.
Dave.
No. Instead of the best award thing, we have to make an announcement. We have to address a subject here. This is the first time that we've actually stood on stage together in over a decade.
I don't know. I'll do it for Al. We're here to present the award for Best Male Video. Michael?
Wait, is that mine? Oh, yeah.
Have you noticed how things have changed a lot since the last time we were up here, really? No, really. It used to be, I want my MTV. And now it's like, give me your MTV or I'll blow your head off, man.
Okay, we'll get...
Next.
Okay. Hey, I got a line here. Okay, this year's nominees come from all over the musical map, from Beck to R. Kelly and everything in between. Ed?
Let's take a look at them.
All right.
And the winner is...
The winner is, ladies and gentlemen, a big blast-off, noisy, screaming, non-stop Summit or Plummet, New York City style applause for Beck!
Did I win this? Huh. R. Kelly? I thought that was Seal. This is Best Male Award. Not sure what that means, totally. I'd like to thank Steve Hamp, who made this video with me. And everybody who worked on the video. I'd like to thank Silva, Cates, Gold Mountain, Geffen, the band, Lee, the crew, everybody. Van Halen up here.
What a segue. I'm here with Van Halen. Guys, when you walked in today with Mr. Lee Roth, you got a standing ovation. What do you think the audience is trying to tell you?
I think there's a lot of history that's attached to this band. I think since the very beginning, the whole idea was for the band to establish a special relationship with an audience. And I think that people can sense when you're BSing them and when you're not. You know.
Is this? Are you guys going to record, tour, or anything?
We've already finished several songs, and they are sensational. In a sense that what you always expect is that it won't add up. Usually when somebody reconvenes an act like this, a band like this, it doesn't add up. Age takes its toll. Not at all. Not in this case at all. And we have a spectacular producer.
I was going to say, speak for yourself.
But we're going to work on a couple of videos for the songs, and then we'll take it from there and see where that leads us.
How does it feel being back together?
I mean,
you know what?
Like Al just said, the music speaks for itself.
So are you all living together in a country cottage now, or how's it working? Are you in regular contact? You get together a day and write tunes?
I think when you make music, there's an energy that develops in the room that you really can't contain. You know, you don't think about it. It just either happens or it doesn't. And when the four of us came together and made music, it happened. You don't question it.
How did this happen? Did somebody call somebody? Did you show up on their door?
I had been down around Florida area for the last year, and I was walking on the street and I saw somebody take a face plant, went right over the handlebars of his mountain bike. And he landed on his head without a helmet, and I said, boy, that'll sure knock 1982 out of the old memory banks. And I started to get a little nostalgic, and I started to think, hey, I think back through those years, let me make a little piece, you know, the battles that were between us, the feuding and fussing, it rings like off of your ear after a while. I made a call and said, let's be at peace. And later on, Ed said, let's go one better, let's do a song.
Wow.
Turned into two, and now we're doing two videos, and
who knows?
Great.
Sky's the limit.
Wow. So everybody's happy. I love that.
Well, I'm
so
happy. I mean, we're musicians, you know?
of course you're not really happy.
Did Howard Stern have anything to do with getting you guys back together?
Not to my knowledge.
How does it feel to be back together?
Howard Stern is gluing the entire culture together, not just Van Halen. You know. Howard Stern is the spiritual glue of the entire United States, much less a little rock band from Pasadena.
You like Howard, Eddie?
I got no problem with the guy.
David Lee Roth is stopping by to talk about he's back with Van Halen, which is an amazing story in itself.
I wonder, do they know?
I don't think Van Halen knows, but David Lee's back with him. It was amazing.
And
you know what's weird?
Hear this new music.
Howard, in the press room, like, David was so happy to be there.
Well, it was the most exciting thing at the MTV Awards.
But Eddie was just like so like angry about it. It seemed.
Well, I heard that David Lee hypnotized Eddie to let him back in the band. That Eddie doesn't really know. I heard that Sammy didn't want to record certain songs, and Sammy was now claiming this is his group, and he brought these guys back.
Do a best of.
Something like that, and they kicked him out.
Yeah, see, Eddie said at the press room that Sammy quit.
Sammy wanted to pursue solo career.
That's a great story. But
Official statement.
I've seen Sammy's solo career.
And he knew what his solo career was before Van Halen.
So low you couldn't find it.
That's a good one.
All right, anyway, well, we'll find out. Who knows? Those are all rumors. So where's David Lee?
Right
all right, let me look at you. Yeah, look how happy you are now. Look how happy. Look how happy you look now. Hey, man.
Sparkling.
You're like a new man. You're sparkling. You're like shining.
Been asleep since late 70s.
David Lee Halen.
Particularly special.
David Lee Halen.
David Lee Halen.
Who would have thought, huh?
Dude, so what happened?
Will wonders never cease.
All right, so the last time I saw you, we were just sitting around talking and bad-mouthing Van Halen and Sammy Hagar and everybody else, like we usually do.
Well, I was bad-mouthing Sam. You know,
right.
Van Halen has always maintained their endocrine system.
Right. No, you always wanted to go back with those guys. David Lee used to say to me, hey, listen, it makes economic sense. The thing with Sammy is not happening. I did my solo thing, fine. Look, why not get together and make a barrel of money?
More than that, it makes spiritual sense. You know?
I mean, you guys are meant for each other.
Well, I can say I remember the last time David was on, and he was saying that, we ought to just drop this stuff. You know, let's put it behind us.
I mean, David had enough money that he didn't need to work anymore. Yeah. It wasn't about working.
It is.
True. I mean, you got enough dough you could have just kept going on doing what you're doing.
There's not a whole lot of musicians that you can conjoin with. You know, the band Van Halen, in terms of lead singerdom, for however long this goes on, just went from decaf to speedballs, okay?
Right.
So it's like there's not a whole lot of musicians that I can go out there with and hook up on that. And there's not a lot of, vocalists that they're going to be able to hook up
My
with
friend,
as well.
No more buying weed on credit, man. You're back in the dough. So anyway, listen to me. So what happens? So I saw you, and then soon after I saw you, I had read that you were going into the studio to record with those guys. And I was shocked. I mean, I was floored. I think it's fantastic. I've always advocated that
you should get back together.
I always said you guys should get back together. That the Sammy Hagar version of Van Halen was not the David Lee Roth version, and it was not happening. It was just not as strong.
Know what made it patently obvious was when, all these radio stations started going alternative, and they went back and pulled out the David Lee Roth Van Halen stuff and started playing it.
That is classic music. It is timeless. Something. I guess the only way you can really judge music is how long it sticks.
Right.
It lasts.
It wasn't trendy. It was part of. It was a defining band of the '80s and all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And more than that, it contained attitude. It
Yeah.
contained a real, genuine attitude, not a pretension, not the I'm not going to get busted for aggravated mopery up there.
And meanwhile, the last time I heard this rap, what David Lee is saying right now, was back in my office to Stuttering John. So David Lee was really bummed out. I mean, he really wanted to back with the band. And as far as I was concerned, it was no way it was ever going to happen. I figured that Eddie and those guys were just like, hey, forget it. We didn't.
Over.
It's over. We got Sammy. Maybe it's not as good, but hey, we got him. And I mean, didn't you think that?
There is a powerful magic in Van Halen's music. That's why it's lasted all of the years.
But deep in your heart, did you ever think it would happen? Seriously.
I didn't know if we're ever going to actually make music together. There's always a consideration that you're going to run into somebody at O'Hare Airport in Chicago, and hopefully there's not going to be a fist fight.
Yeah, right.
Even though, have you ever noticed in musical fist fights, there's never a whole lot of damage.
Right. Nobody wants to hurt their hands or their throat or anything else.
Everybody's got something to watch.
Right.
Yeah.
I asked him if he'd be interested in doing a couple of tunes for the greatest hits. And that's what we've done. And the next step is video. When we're done with that, we'll see. We're going to do a couple of videos. Beyond that, if we do tour, we'll have to write and record a new album. So
We'll see.
we're taking it. We're taking it. Wait. We're taking it step by step because, 12 years. We're getting to know each other again. Okay?
How did it all happen? I mean, did those guys like call
Well, it
you?
seemed to me that David was taking all the credit for this.
You know, what happened is I was watching CNN.
Go ahead.
And, they were doing all the middies, peace accords and everything. And I said, well...
You're like,
Wait a minute.
you're the Kissinger of Van Halen.
No,
Yeah.
and on top of that, they're putting out a greatest hits. I hear about that, and I wanted to call up and say, I called up Ed, and I said, Ed, if nothing else...
You had his number.
We're both going to be in the media as well, and I'd like to have peace, because when I listened back to the old interviews, and I was slamming them, you remember 3-4
Yes.
years ago when I
Yes.
was here, it was like, doom!
You were tough.
Man, now when I hear those words, they ping off my ears like the names of old battles, and I don't want to hear them.
Right.
They sound hollow to me. And I said, let's be at peace.
You called
If
him at his
nothing
house
else.
and said this to him.
Yes. And a week later, he said, hey, let's do a song. And that's how it started up. We'll do a song.
Well,
I said,
what was the
here's-
problem in the first place?
Now, well, wait a second. Here is a rumor that I heard. Before we address that,
Okay.
here is a rumor I heard that Eddie has no money. Now, that's what I heard. I can't
That's not
believe
true.
it. It's not true, right?
No,
He's got
it's
money.
Absolutely not true.
How could he not have money?
I heard
Oh,
that
I can
those
tell
guys.
you how not. I
Well, you know what?
this shit of the guy.
You know what happened?
He'll help you not.
Well, it's based.
He
It's
can
based.
take that much, huh?
It's based on some. It's based on some fact. In the sense that when I was putting together the soundtrack for my new movie that's coming out, I had approached. This is square business. I called Van Halen's management. Because Warner Brothers is the record company I'm doing this for.
Gotcha.
I said, listen, I would be interested in a Van Halen tune if they'd get back with David Lee Roth. I mean, to me, that would be amazing to have that for the movie.
Gotcha.
Okay. This was my suggestion. This was before you guys got back together again.
Okay.
It was kind of weird to me. And the answer I got back was, it wasn't no. It was like, well, we want $1 million. So I said, well, So it started me thinking that maybe they needed the dough, that they would get back with David
that's
Lee.
why you thought that.
So it was real weird that like 2 weeks later, then all of a sudden, you guys were back together again.
And nobody paid him.
No.
Don't you think that's a strange coincidence?
Well, you're always ahead of your time, Howard. So,
Evidently.
sometimes it's telepathic.
Yeah,
or
and I was on the air
something,
talking about it. I said, man, because I didn't want a Sammy Hagar Van Halen song for the movie. No offense, but I said, if you're talking David Lee Roth and Van Halen, I'm there.
Didn't
Well,
you
there's
want
a little
nice song
difference.
Like Dreams? Or
There's
No.
there's
No,
like-
I didn't want Dreams.
There is a different kind of lyrical balance here. You know, what Sam was doing was kind of some Valentine's or some such. And if I should ever do a book of my lyrics, or even these two songs should come with a special kit. It should have a bong, a thesaurus,
Right.
and a driver's side airbag. There's a little difference in the lyrical balance there. It's the same kind of message.
You're a
but-
different guy, let's face it.
Yes.
Now, apparently, Eddie had heard David Lee on our show, the interviews,
Yeah.
and they had to address it before they made up.
Oh,
Isn't that
really?
cool? Like,
What was that?
Well, that's when you guys had to, make peace, right?
Okay.
Right. So you called him up, you made the peace, and did you have to get on the phone with Valerie and, say nice stuff to her, too?
No, no.
No,
I've
please. You only
run-
go so far. That's it.
What's next? That's
Yeah.
then you run into a syndrome of if you see a tambourine on the side of the stage, oh no, you got to watch out. You don't want to fall into the Yoko syndrome. I've run
Right.
into Val a couple of times, and she's welling off into her thing.
Right,
He's
so-
got quite a little family going there.
Yes, he does. So something you're not interested in, right?
It's a different kind of mindset.
Right. So all of a sudden, the day comes where you have to go do this new song together. Now, were you nervous that you had to go face these guys again?
Yeah,
I mean,
did
after
you get
all the
that,
bad
like,
blood?
thing in your stomach?
No.
Did you think maybe this was a candid camera and they were going to lynch you when you got in the room?
No.
Because it's like you against the three of them. You're walking in and they're all
Yeah,
comfortable.
they've
No.
been together all this time.
That's adversarial. No,
Right.
I didn't see it at all as being adversarial. I know what this music is about.
Yeah.
Once we decide to actually make the tunes, I know what this music's going to sound like.
But how did you prepare? Did you smoke weed? Did you drink? Did you do coke? Did you do Special K, some cat tranquilizer, or did you go in there straight? Yeah. What was the drug of choice when you had them walk into that
Well,
room?
I don't think you'd want to drink a lot of coffee before walking into the room. Things fairly percolate in there as well.
Right.
But
so you walked in straight. You were ready to confront reality, right?
Certainly.
Right. And you walk in, and where's it? I assume the first meeting is at the studio?
Is it at Eddie's house?
It was up the hill on Eddie's house.
Okay.
Wow.
And I don't think anybody else knew that I was going to show up.
Oh, really?
Yes. And
Are you kidding?
everybody was like,
So
they
the
saw
other
a
guys-
ghost. Oh, they were flipped out. They
Did
were
you
freaked out,
did you prepare any kind of musical, like any words or any kind of? Did you prepare any
Did you have any ideas cooking?
cooking for the song?
Well, I write from personal experience entirely,
Mm-hmm.
but the music's going to indicate to you the storyline. And I'm convinced that comes from watching miles of movies and tons of television shows as a kid. And then certain kinds of music will remind you things, and you go into a minor key and you hear some da 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 da. That means people are wearing headdresses.
Is it safe to say? Is it safe to say, David, that the new song will be called "Sammy Blows"? Because that's got to be most on your mind, right? Is it possible that could be it?
Man, I tell you, if you're a vocalist in this band,
you don't know
Do
what.
you feel bad for him? I mean,
don't
here's
sit
a
with
guy.
your back to the wall at a restaurant.
It's a good question, Robin.
Never unpack
Because
your suitcase.
Do you feel bad for Sammy?
Experience that he's having now.
Do you feel bad
know
for
what?
Sammy?
I'll tell you.
And what do you think
Sam,
happened?
Well, let me say.
Go ahead.
Sam, right now, is probably pretty pissed off.
Yes.
And tomorrow, he's probably going to be even more pissed off.
Right.
And then a few weeks from now, he's going to look around. He's going to see his new little baby daughter, and he's going to see his new pretty wife, and realize that all three of them live in Hawaii. And he's going to put his shoulder to the wheel, and he's going to push and push. And after a few weeks, few months, well, it's Sam, few months, and everything's going to start to go okay, and someday the sun's going to shine, and it'll be just all right. But what do I know about losing a high-profile gig?
I heard that Sammy had become difficult to work with in the sense that he didn't want to do a best of album, and he said, "Hey, he told Eddie, this is my band."
Didn't Sam do a greatest hits? Didn't he do a best of
he
Sam
did a
Hagar?
best of Sam Hagar. So why wouldn't he want? So didn't you hear
Yeah,
that?
but he was like, Van Halen is still here.
Yeah,
We
he's
don't
saying.
need a best of yet. We're
Well,
cooking.
when Sam was in the band, it was kind of a nostalgic thing because people would think about, what was before.
What do you think happened, though?
Now it's up to date. Now it's no longer just a purely nostalgic gig. You saw what happened on MTV.
Yeah,
People don't
they got a standing
People don't
ovation.
applaud like that when the Bay City Rollers reconvene. It's
Right,
like,
right.
It is of the moment. It is of the right now.
Well, it's very
not
exciting
really
to
of the past.
think that you guys would be touring and getting together and doing all that.
Also, Sam was a very unhappy person, for his whole brief but colorful tenure.
Was he really? He was upset.
Come on, read all the interviews.
He's pissed off.
This was somebody who was not enjoying the ship.
Really?
That
Really?
was somebody who, come on, go back through and listen. It was always bitter complaining about me and bitter complaining
But
about
you weren't
such
even
and
there.
such.
That's right.
Well, in spirit, I expect,
Yeah.
know.
Right.
So, once, the original, William Faulkner wrote America, you get one chance, man.
Right.
And
So-
when you bomb-proof something as strong as the classic Van Halen was, it does not go away.
So when you walked into Eddie's home, and there is the whole band. Now they didn't know you were coming. Only Eddie knew. So who's there? Eddie and the two other guys?
Eddie was there, and then Alex walked in. He looked like he'd seen a ghost.
Well, when you walked, Eddie was there.
That
I mean,
is pretty
when you
funny.
first walked in, it was just you and Eddie alone.
Yes.
And how did that go?
It went spectacular.
I mean, what did you say to each other?
Howard, it's
Did
like,
you hug? Did you?
Did you hug?
Absolutely.
Did you guys make out a little?
You know what it is that you grow up listening to the same disc jockeys on the radio.
Yes.
You grow up lusting for the same automobiles.
Right.
You grow up ditching class from the same junior high schools and so forth. There's a frame of reference there that cannot be replaced. You have friends like that you know. That
Really?
You don't even have
Oh,
to comment.
Yeah.
You don't even have to comment. You after a while,
Right.
your
You just
sense
know
of
each other
humor,
so well.
as you can co-conspire in humor, you don't even have to say anything. You just go, and they know what you mean.
It had to be weird, though.
It was not weird at all.
And also, you're a very talkative guy. You're very verbal. You'll come out and say what you feel, even if people don't understand what you're saying. And Eddie's a quiet.
I don't understand that.
But you know what I mean? Like, you're a guy who will fill the room up. Eddie's the kind of guy who's so goddamn quiet that you start to get, like, weirded out. You know
Well,
what I mean?
you got to have your yin and yang.
You know what I-
You must have your
My
balance.
point is, he's dull. You know what I'm saying?
No.
He's thinking.
This is a world of specialization.
Right.
And what he specializes in, he's the best at. Period.
Right. No, we know that.
You know?
He's the
And
greatest.
what I specialize in,
You're the best.
hell,
Absolutely.
in my tiny little corner of the universe, I rule.
So you sat down. That's right. You sat down, and did you begin immediately writing music, or you just kind of
Well,
hung
wait a
out?
minute. The other guys haven't joined yet.
The other guys felt.
Well, you
the
really
other
think
guys
they're
came
necessary
by.
to write a song? I mean, let's face
Oh,
it.
you think they did some work before
Yeah.
the two guys got there, huh?
Right.
We started writing music.
music. They had a piece of music that had already been tracked and
Right.
needed the vocals, and we wrote a whole nother song from scratch.
Oh, really?
Yes,
so,
yes.
So there's 2 new songs.
Oh, yeah, and the whole wazoo took, once the producers showed up, 10 days to record all the music, all the vocals. And
how long before you guys had your first argument back in the studio?
And what was that like? Did you think?
4 hours.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
You started yelling at him in 4 hours?
Were there things that bothered you right away, and then you said, "No, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not
Not
going to
at
say
all.
anything," and then finally
Not
you said,
at
"You know,
all.
this is ridiculous.
Really?
I got to talk."
Yeah, I'm sure there were like at times you probably wanted to be more vocal, but you held it in. You know what I mean? Like
I
instead,
do that as a way of life.
Yeah, I bet. Did you tape this? Did you tape this reunion? Videotape it so you'd have it for the
That
archives?
should be in the video.
Yeah, you should have called me. I would have videotaped
Really?
it.
Any arguments are going to come from a difference in lifestyle, and that's it. It's both aiming at the same place to make amazing music. That's the goal. Everything else is secondary. You want to talk, sure, we want to sell a ticket. Sure, you want to sell a T-shirt. But the way you do that is by concentrating on what you do on the music. And I write from my personal experience. Ed, Al, them are going to write from theirs. And it's as simple as, like, for example, an introduction.
Now the second song.
Hold
okay.
on 1 second. You guys are used to guests who have nothing to say.
You've got something to say. Go ahead.
It's like as simple as like at the MTV Awards. Ed would give a shout out to his gal and his son. Hey, baby. Hey, son. And that's perfect, man. He's got a real solid thing going there, a family. That's what gets him up in the morning and makes him play as good as him. My shout is, hey, baby, sweet mama tramp, I'm going to be all over you like a cheap suit in August. Yo,
Right.
oh, I forgot to say your name, honey.
Right.
Okay, we've been talking about putting out a greatest hits record, and Dave called because obviously half the songs on it were going to be old material. So he wanted to know what was going on. And I said, well, I'll get back to you. Well, anyway, on the phone conversation, he just appeared to have. We got along.
So you walk in, and then the rest of the guys see you. After, like you're there, you're sitting on the couch, I assume, right? Mm-hmm. What were you wearing? So the rest of the guys walk in, and all of a sudden they see you sitting there, and they have to, like what do they say?
Well, you just have to kind of disregard the past.
Right. You got to. Either you accept it or you don't.
Exactly.
Right.
Now wait a minute. Were the problems with everybody or just with Eddie?
Yeah, what was the problem anyway?
I think what happens is 10 years ago, 10 years ago, we were all very different people.
Right.
And after, a long period of time, how you sit around and you commiserate with somebody, this was good, this was bad, this was rotten. And it becomes the kind of thing like, what is it in Huck Finn, the 2 warring clans, the Shepherdsons and the Grangerfields, who can't remember why they started feuding.
It happened so long ago you don't know why.
But I'm asking you, was the problem with everybody, or was it with... Or did they side with it? What happened?
I think David was perceived as a pain in the ass because David didn't want to have keyboards in his music and stuff and wanted to keep it rock and roll. Eddie wanted to go in his direction and was also having, he was having his drinking problem and he didn't want to tour, and David wanted a tour. And then the other 2 guys...
I had my drinking problem.
Right. Did you?
Sure.
Yeah. So you were all like a big pain in the ass, all carried away with yourselves.
Keith Richards merit badge.
So you went off, and plus your solo thing was happening, and you just said, "Hey, I don't need this anymore." And
No. But I'm wondering. See, when the reunion happened, were those guys like happy that Eddie and David had made up, or were they pissed too and more makeups had to go on?
I think they walked in and called security, thinking that David Lee Roth had broken into Eddie's house. Yeah, right. So what are we going to do with this guy?
It was quite a look. What Al looked, it's to kind of look like when you haven't seen somebody long ago. What was it in The Man Who Would Be King, the movie, when the guy comes in with the turban and he goes, "Don't you remember me?"
Yeah.
Jeez.
But what was the reality of it? Did you guys like hug immediately, or did you have to work some things out?
It was instant.
It was?
It was, boom, because we grew up literally down the street from each other.
You hugged each other?
Edward and I, yes.
You did?
Absolutely. Time heals a whole lot, and even though you may grow apart in your own way, you still have a lot of things in common. You can't look somebody in the eye and just disregard that. It's there forever.
Anybody get aroused?
Oh,
you guys sound like...
I was wondering if that was a Telefunken U-47 or if they were just happy to see me.
So then you sat down, and how long did you hang out with those guys, like at the house?
Oh, when Alex first walked in and got over the initial shock, we sat and talked for almost 7 hours straight.
Is that right?
Wow.
Picked up on just where you left off, and everything was cool, and probably a lot mellower because now everybody's a little more aware that there's some sensitivities between
Now,
us.
was Sammy mentioned in this room?
Constantly.
Yeah. Did you guys, and those guys were probably talking about how difficult Sammy was, and you're laughing because that's what they were probably bad-mouthing you to Sammy.
Well, that's the beauty of Van Halen.
Yeah, right.
You know? It's like we may turn on you like Sinatra after his third martini like that.
So there will be a best of album. You will be with 2 new tracks on the album, and will there be any Sammy material on the best of?
I don't know. I believe so. The lineup has changed so many times, and I literally came into the middle of this. They had album cover art designed and general tune stack.
How did you feel about that you're not being consulted on a best of album, that you're sort of just being brought in and doing the 2 songs?
And what do they do with the cover now?
I mean, why can't you be consulted on the cover art?
You couldn't pick a better mercenary to hire for a brief little war.
Right,
if it should become longer, God bless. But if not, you could not pick better. I had some ideas, you know, for the album cover and stuff. I said, hey, we should put a drum for Al, and we should put a guitar for Ed, and a bass for Mike, and I should be represented by a baby's arm holding an apple.
That's it. Beautiful. One of the greatest rock bands that have ever been around has been Van Halen with David Lee Roth.
Yes.
And this is the very first interview I have done ever in the world around this whole scenario.
And
here.
can I tell you
told
something?
them up front
Thank you.
that this had to be, and there was some little dissension about that. Well, we don't know if we want to do this and that and so forth. And I said, no, this has got to be the first place. This is the swinginest.
The music is the biggest slam dunk. We have not lost a single centimeter to the passage of time. And that's usually what happens when you get a rock band who reconvenes, whether it's for a song or for a tour or forever ad infinitum. Usually the music sucks, but hey, we love the Stones, so we go to the show anyway, you know?
Now I take it that when you went to the MTV Awards,
That was like an official coming out?
The 3 guys didn't even see you probably backstage. They probably waited to the last minute to bring you all together. Is that correct?
No. Everybody rides together. Everybody knows
Oh, yeah?
together.
And when you walked in, I mean, the place must have gone nuts even before you went out on stage, just backstage.
Or did they keep you hidden?
Oh, no.
They kept you hidden that night?
People got nuts. We didn't announce it in advance, but... you know, once we show up, it's amazing. I mean, just the other night after the awards show, you know, a few nights later, I was walking down the street in complete camouflage. You know, I know I'm an expert at ermine camouflage.
Yes.
You learn how to sink into the wall. Nobody notices, and a police van pulls up, and I go, woo! I thought they were going to shake me down. He goes,
why not? You've been arrested
attention.
before. Yes.
Mr. Roth, you're the man.
Really? They're all excited.
There's like 9 arms with gloves out the window.
Because it was interesting when you
I
walked
don't
out.
walk anymore.
When you walked out on the MTV Awards, you waited for them to walk out, and then you came out last. We thought that you were just following them and stalking them.
Stalking them.
We didn't know. We had no idea that you were back together.
And then they were on stage and they didn't know what to do.
But I got to tell you something. As usual, you became their frontman again. I mean, they kind of sunk into the background, and you took over, and you addressed the audience and said, "Wait a second, let's acknowledge what's going on here. This is a big deal."
We play different instruments. What I play is my body, my voice, my words, you know, and you got different instruments.
Yes, it is.
If you walk out, if you're a guitar player or a piano player, and you walk out there without your instrument, then it's going to naturally go to whoever is going to be able to speak.
I haven't seen you this excited in a long time. I mean, you are really happy. You like this.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are.
I'm delighted.
And isn't it ironic that the cops who stopped David Lee to congratulate him are the same cops 5 years ago who busted him?
Yes.
It was unbelievable. Dragged him off in handcuffs.
Hey, you have to have at least one minor drug bust on your resume to be a rock star.
Yeah, I mean, it was about time.
So I got the perfect one.
It was great.
$10 worth of postage stamp-sized bunk Jamaican reefer.
Right.
And we're still talking about it.
And it worked.
The only thing I screwed up was the timing. I should have been busted yesterday.
Yes, that would have been good. Now, when will we see a Van Halen starring David Lee Roth tour? When will that happen? When will you announce that?
One little move at a time as we go. As all that I know is next we're doing a video.
Oh, you are doing a video.
And this is what I'm
Now, that'll
told.
be good.
I'm told, you know, we were going to do one song, and things started to go good, and then we did 2 songs, and now I understand we're going to do a video. I have no idea what shape that's going to take.
Now, isn't this interesting? They've kind of got you in an interesting place now.
Yeah, because I was going to ask about the business relationship
they
here.
tell you what's going to happen. Now, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't call them and tell them what's going to happen on the video.
Stop trying to
hey, listen, I'm not your manager or anything, but, you know, what is this?
Because, you know, it's like they still hold Van Halen. They've got what he wants.
You know what it is? It's some kind of fake democracy in any rock band. And you just have to imagine, and I said out there to the fellas, imagine if you have a dysfunctional family here, just like Van Halen, okay?
Right.
And imagine if you broke up and reconvened 10 years later, how confused and, you know,
it's hard to figure out.
And you're the alpha dog here. You're the boss here. In a band, it's a quasi-democracy. That would mean that everybody in this room would have a say, even Baba Booey.
Really? Oh, well, that can't be. That's unbelievable.
You know, I left once,
Here's
and
my
if
guess.
that was the thing, I wouldn't have come back.
Once you guys go on tour and you actually do a formal album together, you'll be back in the driver's seat. You'll be telling those guys when to jump. Don't worry about it.
Well, how does the deal stand now, though? Because you're saying that they have the relationships.
Yes,
with the record company, with the management company, with everybody.
That'll all
so
change.
What are you, a hired hand?
No, that just means I don't pay a percentage.
Right. Let me say something. Believe me, in about a year, David will have it all worked out.
Sure.
Those guys will be hopping
Well,
too.
wait, perhaps it's that very kind of thinking that precludes us from just saying, okay, we're going to do the singles, we're going to do the tour, we're going to do this and that, because maybe
They're
some folks
afraid.
might be thinking that way. It's an easy way to wind up thinking. I don't perceive that way. The beauty of Van Halen is that you have super enthusiasm and wilding in every department.
Yes.
And, you know, and some people would say, man, if I could write the lyrics, I would. You know, some people say that to a singer.
Yeah.
Some people say, if I could play a guitar, I would. I wouldn't. Even if I was a spectacular guitar player, I wouldn't. You wouldn't see me do it on stage because there's something about magic, you know, about putting it together. You could do this whole show by yourself, would you? No.
I could sing.
All right. You got
What did he say?
You get chemistry.
I never know what he says, but I know that Van Halen is back together.
though.
I couldn't be happier. Let me say something to you on a personal
It's
note
just
here.
better.
If he
It's
could
just
play
better
guitar,
when
he
when
says he wouldn't. That's ridiculous.
I couldn't. Yeah.
Oh, no, because what happens is it becomes incestuous. It's just me, my, I. And the music becomes very small and very isolocated. When you perform with other and write with other musicians,
Listen to me.
even on the same instrument, you're going to hear things that you would never think of
The
before.
truth is, he's got his plan totally mapped out. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Where he's taking
Guy's a very smart businessman. Let me say something. On a personal level.
Well, wait a minute. I got another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You almost got at it.
When they do business now, how's the money?
Oh.
How will the money? Well, first of all, on the Best Of album,
Yeah.
that's a clear-cut business arrangement.
That's
David Lee has
All right,
publishing.
Yes, but we're going now to the new songs.
New songs, you're not splitting that 4 ways evenly. I think it'll be the same arrangement Van Halen always
You
had.
do the publishing and royalty thing the way we always did, but we
Right.
always split it up 4 ways. And
You did even with the
royalties and such.
touring money?
Yes.
Really? You're still open to that?
Yes. The thing is that
In a year, he'll
it's
tell
But I
us.
still don't understand.
Yeah. What don't you understand?
It's not a band,
It is a band.
but he's not a member.
He is. He's keeping you interested
now
in
wait
the
a
story.
second, now
They're
wait a
going out on
second.
tour. He's just not going to announce it.
No, you know, as like you said, you read
They
the
are a
press
band.
releases. You heard the press releases from the very word go. They started announcing that they were still looking for other singers, that there may
Sure.
be a replacement, that
Right.
they were carrying on active auditions for singers.
Well, can we
and
stop
stuff
that
like
now? I mean, is it clear that you will be the guy?
No, it's not clear to me.
Really?
I have no idea at all. I'm good to go. I have a plan.
You're
It's a
open to
two-word
doing
plan.
it.
I have a 2-word plan, Howard.
What is it?
Let's go.
Let's go. You're ready. You've
Here's
always
my-
been ready.
here's my
You've said that
two-word
for
plan.
10 years.
Here's my 2-word
There's
plan.
a lot of momentum behind you.
Hello, Cleveland.
We're gonna do a couple of videos. Beyond that, if we do tour, we'll have to write and record a new album. So
We'll see.
we're taking it. We're taking it. Wait. We're taking it step by step because, 12 years. We're getting to know each other again.
I just think he's in a precarious position. I don't understand what they've gotten him into here.
Robin
what's-
wants to split up the band again.
No, she's got a very solid point there.
yeah.
Is that there's been no direct commitments. I'm not pressing for it. I'm not asking for it.
'Cause you
Yeah, but you're open about it. You're
2
saying
months ago,
you're
2 months
saying you
ago,
would
I
go
would've-
back with those guys, and they're not saying the same commitment to you.
Right.
It is a little dishonest of them. You're saying, "Hey guys, I want to be back with you."
And the other thing
That's
is,
honest.
when you're sitting in the room working, doing it puts you at a disadvantage if you're not already the guy.
You might have to put your foot down at some point and say, hey, listen, guys, listen, you can't embarrass me like this. I've gone on the radio. I've said, hey, I want to be back in Van Halen. You got to say, hey, we want David Lee Roth back. What am I, auditioning
I'm not
here?
Wait a minute.
Because right now, they are giving you a vote.
You know, she's got a point.
They could take it away.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I can't think about that. What am I going to stress on that?
Why don't you tell them either
2 months ago, I would have never thought, me and 10 million other fans never would have thought that I would be sitting here and talking to you about this.
True. Right.
Who would have thought that there would even be a phone call in the midst of all this chaos?
I would have thought that, you know, like when we saw Russia disband, you know what I mean? That this is even more of an impossibility. But you got to tell these guys to move their bowels or get off the surfboard. You know what I mean? You got to tell them to either, you know, put you in the band or not.
Everybody's got a different time frame.
I see.
Like I
Because
said,
you got to work with your hands untied, David. You can't be tied down.
And I think you could tell Eddie you deserve a little more money than Michael Anthony, the bass player. No offense. I mean, you know, let's be honest.
I would imagine should this band get out on tour and stuff, there'll be plenty to divvy up.
Right.
Know.
You don't need to be selfish.
Yeah, a little here, a little there is not going to make any difference.
So now that you've recorded these songs and then everything, have the guys said, hey, let's get together again, or there has just been no contact since?
The video is just the next
The video will be
No,
the
we
next
got
step.
together, do the award show, the MTVs, and the next time will be for the video, some point in the next 2 weeks.
Will you have some input into what the video will look like, or do you have to sit there and sort of wait for the
them
band?
to tell you what to do.
That's going to be...
You've always been the master at making great videos. I don't understand why.
Once again, they're in charge of that. That's
See,
going
this
to
is
be
what I'm
their
saying,
vibe.
Howard. This is a problem.
Yes. You need me to, you know what? You need me to talk to these guys. I'll straighten it all out. You'll be out on the street.
I'll level with you.
Yeah.
I have no part to play in that. That's not been something that I'm participating in until effectively I'm in the band, quote unquote. And that has not been described. All I know is what you know, reading literally from the newspapers of saying, well, it's between Roth and John Tesh. Keep your fingers crossed.
Right. How about if John Tesh ends up being the leader of Van Halen? So the point is that it's still kind of quasi, it's unclear to you.
Wait a minute.
It's unclear to me.
Right.
We're unclear here, even. Because...
Well, that makes a quorum, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We don't know. Now, all right, you did all this work together. You've done the MTV thing. Are you and Eddie in constant communication, or you still wait for these calls?
It's still call by call. It's not a communication constant
and how
kind of thing.
And
we
how
have two
happy
very
is,
different lifestyles.
Well, that's fine, but you know.
And how happy is Valerie
we're like
in all of this?
Working here.
She has no say, I hope.
I can't tell. You know, I have very little contact.
Did you see her at Eddie's house?
Oh, I see her in passing, and it's always been very affable and very opening. You know,
I heard she didn't like you, but maybe now she does.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Hey,
screw her. What's her big deal?
No, actually,
she don't play an instrument.
Even she's had to leave Eddie. She understands, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah, she's left him a few times, right? So she actually should be in league with you.
Oh, you know, she's...
You two have a lot in common.
When you were at the house, did she flip you the bird a lot, or did she, like, behave?
No.
Like, you know.
What was funny is I went over one morning, we were talking. I was at the house, and Val was sitting there, and then she posted something on the internet about how I had been sitting in Wolfie's timeout chair, you know, their kid Wolf's timeout chair. And I think for a second, like, timeout chair used to be called back of the hand when we were growing up.
Right.
You know, and it's like, this describes the difference between us. Okay?
Right.
Between myself and, you know, another lifestyle. I understand the idea of timeout chair for kids. You don't want to slap kids. If you if you spank kids, maybe 20 years later, it'll make your sex life more colorful.
Right. Yeah. Does she hang out in her underwear when she's walking around?
But you know, they're talking about a timeout chair, which for kids is a great thing. But if I personally, I don't have any children. If I owned a timeout chair, it'd be all different.
Right. What the hell's going on in this interview? I never know where I stand in these interviews.
I say, baby, go put this on. No,
Did Valerie
the
pork
label
up?
Goes in back.
Did Valerie pork up, or does she still have a nice body?
I'm gonna go downstairs and bring up the timeout.
She doesn't care. You just want to be back. You know what it is? David Lee is happy.
Where'd I put them scars?
No, the thing is here, Howard.
Yeah.
Is that
What's the matter? You can't stand that he's happy?
David Lee doesn't know. They got him right where they want him.
Yes, that's true.
He's on ice, and he doesn't know where the thin parts are.
But he doesn't care. He's back recording with the
They're
band.
not giving him a solid sheet of ice.
Can I represent you here? It seems to me like, hey, even though it's all up in the air, you're happy with what has gone down so far. far.
I'm delighted.
And you just say, hey, and if it works out to be something more, you're going to be even happier.
I would be delighted right off the map, straight to Jupiter.
But I think David does admit that they do have him where they want him. Like, in other words, they will now dictate, you know, but eventually he'll worm his way back into, being the force that he is.
Worming?
Yeah.
That's a problem.
It's got to be the way it's done.
No.
You gotta be.
He'll be smacking those guys around in a year is what I'm saying. Just he's got to work into it.
What'll happen is this.
Yeah.
They'll go this step-by-step thing. Okay, they'll go out on tour, big explosion. The band will be making tons of money. The
Nothing wrong
demand
with
will
that.
be incredible. The album will sell well. And then David will say, guys, come on.
Come on what?
We've got to have parity here. I got to have an equal say. I got to stop holding my tongue. It's all over unless we have, and they'll be fighting again.
No, here's the point. They might.
No, you're probably absolutely correct.
But there's nothing wrong with that. They might have him where they want him, but he's where he wants to be.
Eventually, he'll be where he wants to be.
It's not a bad situation.
This is not a bad situation at all, as long as the final result is
good.
Just swinging.
If you feel like you're holding back, though, then you wouldn't be happy and you'd leave. Right.
I haven't held back at all. When you hear the songs, and that is what the whole point is. The songs are just bomb-proof.
And when you were in the studio with them, they were like, hey, man, this is the way we should sound, man. This is right. Is that how they were? Or they were just holding back a little with the compliments?
There's just not a whole lot of question. The music just is
spoke for
what
itself.
it am.
It felt right.
Ed makes the guitar, and it goes like that, and I supply the vocals.
And you're not going to miss that 98-piece rumba orchestra of yours. You're going to dump those guys, aren't you? Yeah, you're getting rid of that whole thing, right?
Hey, somebody from Japan asked me recently what happened in Vegas.
Yeah.
And they did the same thing to me they did to Bugsy Siegel.
Right.
Show good. Timing bad.
We're not going to go out on tour just for the money, okay? It's not what it's about.
They will be on tour, mark my words. It'll be very, very big tour. I will be there to watch.
I think Eddie is holding him by the shorts. And,
well, there's only a certain degree to somebody holding you by your shorts. In terms of scheduling, you bet. In terms of what kind of lyrics I'm writing, no.
David Lee needs.
I know that they're not doing that.
They
it's
need
the
him.
Business stuff.
Yeah, but they need David Lee, and David Lee needs them. They're clearly going to be back together. They got to work out the business. But anyway, here's the point. I'm happy. On a personal level, I'm very happy. I have always maintained that the band is nothing without you, and that you should be.
It's just an ordinary band without you, okay? It's a good ordinary band, but it's an ordinary.
Now, what happens if you go out on tour and Eddie wants you to sing Sammy songs? Will you do that?
That's a toughie.
Yeah.
You know, because
did he sing your songs?
Well, he tried to, a couple of them. You know, the Panamas and whatever. But you know, Sam committed lyrical felonies for the last 10 years. You go to poetry jail for that. You get your poetic license revoked
for singing someone else's songs.
Oh man, Moon in June, that's a felony. You know? Put your hands in the air like you just don't care. That's habitual criminal. You get life.
Right. So you will not sing. You are not singing that stuff, right? Is that what you're here to say?
It's going to be an arm wrestling event to
That's
be
right.
witnessed.
See, 'cause that's the first thing.
When the song list
this
is
is
proposed.
the playlist.
I don't think that the band would expect him to sing Sammy Hagar
Again,
songs.
that's a whole different human being. That's a whole different spiritual
That's not you.
constitution.
Do you think? Oh, this is incredible. The possibilities are incredible.
Isn't it? That's why I'm here today.
Yeah. That's why everybody wants to hear what he has to say.
One of these days there'll be a Van Halen tour with special guest Sammy Hagar.
No, I don't think so. That'll never happen, right,
Gee,
David Lee?
maybe they wanted. Maybe what they really want is the both of us to sing out of the same mic, like George and Paul used to do.
Right. And you will not do that, right? You will not sing with Sammy Hagar. Yeah, absolutely.
But you know what? I have nothing against the fella. Nobody knows what he is experiencing right now more than I do.
And let me say thank you for David Lee Roth for giving us the first interview.
There you go.
And also, I am very happy to see that you're back with the band. I will be first online to see that band back together again. It will be excellent when you're on tour with them. We look forward to the new Best of album with your two original songs. David Lee Roth, everybody.
Tickets for a semi-anticipated reunion tour by Van Halen, however, with original singer David Lee Roth back in the fold, won't be available anywhere, it turns out. Roth, who rejoined the band in a studio recently to cut 2 new tracks for a greatest hits album and interacted amiably with his estranged mates at last month's MTV Video Music Awards show, issued a press release on Wednesday claiming he'd been tricked into making that appearance and that far from stepping back into his old slot in the group, he'd learned the band had already hired a new singer to replace the lately discarded Sammy Hagar, and it wasn't him. It sickens me, said Roth, that the reunion as seen on MTV was nothing more than a publicity stunt. I love these guys. Do I trust them? That question never entered my mind.
Van Halen hit back with the facts of its own the following day, including the pithy comment that, quote, "We parted company with David Lee Roth 11 years ago for many reasons. In his open letter, we were reminded of some of them. The intention all along, the group said, was to do 2 new songs with Dave for the Best of Volume 1 package. He was never led to believe anything but that."
Van Halen's been coy about the identity of the new frontman that the band's been rehearsing with for the past 2 weeks, but rumor says it's Gary Cherone, formerly with the Boston group Extreme, and coincidentally managed by the same people as Van Halen. Even more coincidentally, Extreme issued a press release on Wednesday as well, announcing its breakup.
We tried to be gentlemen about this, and I guess we're just going to get a little bit nasty right now.
Well, what happened at the MTV Awards that changed the nature of your relationship with David?
It wasn't his onstage antics, which for one I thought was embarrassing.
And disrespectful to Beck?
Very disrespectful to Beck, as he's trying to thank, you know, people, his acceptance speech, whatever. Dave's behind him doing his shtick, you know, and it's like, I don't know. To me, it was embarrassing. But it was more so backstage, where he basically spit in my face. Everybody, just, here's what's happening. 2 songs, Best of Volume 1. One of us would like us to do 2 videos, and that is it. If you think we're going on tour in the summer, forget it. We're not going to go out there and take your money. And if and when we ever do a tour with Roth in the future, we'll have to write and record a new album first, okay? I'm talking in the future.
Now that's what he said. This is not what we're saying now.
No. I'm saying this is
Yes.
backstage, the press conferences,
Right.
okay? And I said December 16th, I need a new hip, okay? So that's going to throw a little wrench in the works. Anyway, after about 3 of those, all of a sudden Dave's vibe changed. And instead of coming to me and saying, "Hey, Ed, come on, can we just not mention your hip thing?" I had to go to him and go, "Dave, what's the matter? What happened all of a sudden? You know, you're just all happy and stuff, and now you're like pissed off and whatever." And I go, he goes, "Well, hey, tonight's about me, man, not your hip."
Tonight's about me.
I just bit my tongue and I said, "Okay, Dave, the next one, you, Alex, and Michael do it, but answer the questions. And I will not mention my hip." And I'll try and do my best impersonation. You better not. I went.
Yeah.
I mean, Scotty Ross, the manager, almost had to, because I was ready to, you know, it's like all those years of, were right there.
Did you ever tell him categorically, this is before MTV, that he would not be in the band and he would not be touring? Period.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I told him,
Ed's
quote-unquote,
baby steps.
You know?
Because every day he would call me, he would call Ed.
Yeah,
he'd go, when are we taking this on tour?
Closure.
Dave,
Closure.
we haven't even recorded a song yet. When are we taking what on tour?
Either he was high and just didn't hear the truth. If we don't please ourselves first, then we're not being honest to our fans.
And we'd be living a lie.
Exactly. It has to come from the heart, and we have to be happy with it. Then we put it out, and if we touched one person with it, mission accomplished.
That's right, the combo mix splatter continues, and we're all comfortable with each of our bodies up here. Fred Norris, one of the stars of Private Parts, and indeed David Lee Roth. Fred, let's start with you. You have a tub scene with a nude starlet in this.
Hold on. These guys have something to say. Hold on.
All right, Dave,
I think you're saying it because this guy here is the only lead
I don't
singer of Van
care,
Halen that
guys.
matters.
All right, Dave, let's
I
go.
don't care what Ed Van Halen says about me. I know that Mr. Rogers and Howard Stern like me just the way I am.
All right, Dave, now the last time you were at an event like this, you know the guys in Van Halen said that your behavior was such that
Hey
they
guys,
kicked you out of the
you know
band.
what? Van Halen was one of the greatest bands in the history of the sport. It still is, and as long as I was in the band, it still will forever be. God bless the fans who always supported us.
But What are your feelings about those guys for the way they treated you this past year, though?
You know what? Tonight is Howard Stern's night. Tonight is about private parts, or at least somebody's private parts here. There are two words in radio now, this Marconi and Howard Stern. Everybody is here. I was walking in, this would only happen in New York City. I was walking in from the limo here, and a fella comes up with a backwards baseball cap and the Pendleton and everything, and he gets in here. It was the cop who busted me undercover in Washington Square Park.
All right, here we are on MTV. It's the most incredible night of my life, it really is. I've actually started a new supergroup, Tony Bennett, David Lee Roth, and myself. It's great to see you here, Dave.
This is the most amazing thing in the history of show business.
Tony, I want to thank you for coming tonight. I'll be singing tonight. I'll be singing to you. I hope I do you. I hope I do you proud.
I know you will. Thank you. It's great to be here. This is a phenomenon.
What's amazing to me is, all right, yeah. You know, you don't actually get to do a movie unless you have people behind you who get it made. And because of you, I got to tell you something. For 4 years, I tried to get this movie on the big screen, and I kept rejecting scripts and doing all that kind of stuff. And I think the only reason you get to reject scripts is because you got people behind you. Isn't that true, Dave?
Well, Howard, I think that the difficulty is that you're the first one to take radio from Music 101 to Radio 36 Double D, and that's a pretty hard thing to get on the screen.
Hey, let me say something. Van Halen is nothing without David Lee Roth. That's the man. Am I right, Tony?
Right.
Right. I'm absolutely right. This is...
Wait a minute, guys. Eddie doesn't suck. Eddie doesn't suck. He just made a little mistake.
Just go with the flow, Dave.
It's called the LV syndrome. That's the lead vocalist syndrome. It happens to all of them.
LV syndrome may have flowered most fully back in 1985 when the orchidaceous David Lee Roth was suddenly announced to no longer be fronting the hard rock behemoth Van Halen.
People ask me all the time about the last 3 months of Van Halen. First, Edward says, we fired him. We decided to throw him out of the band because we never wanted him in the band.
He treated everybody like a little lower than him, including us in the band. And, you know, that's not the way a band works.
And then 2 weeks later we read, well, no, Dave split to go be a movie star.
Yeah, Dave told us, I want to make a movie, I don't want to make a record. Then fine, you know, you're an adult. You can make up your own mind, go ahead and do it, but don't leave the band hanging.
And I'm here to tell you that it's a lot of BS. It's a lot of excuses that are being peddled because these guys couldn't get off their butt and make a record.
We just came off a major tour in 1984, and we were just itching to go and do the next record because Edward had written a lot of music.
I remember sitting there for a lot of days because Mr. Fingers couldn't get out of bed for 4 days in a row. And I remember sitting for a number of days in a row because Mr. Sticks was driving across country with his new wife. And I wanted to make a record.
When Dave quit the band, we were just sitting there going, now what?
The Van Halens replaced Roth with a classic screamer, Sammy Hagar, who fronted the band through 11 years of hits, but then hit the old LV wall himself in 1996.
I was called by Eddie on Father's Day morning. He just called up and says, hey, we gotta talk, and Eddie just goes, you know, you never do what I asked you to do, and I got so frustrated, I went and got Roth, and we've been working with him, and it's been working out great, and you've always been a solo artist anyway, you might as well just go back to being a solo artist. Quote, unquote.
That was a picture that he painted. That's absolutely untrue. That's absolutely untrue.
Bottom line, his work ethic sucked, okay? Now, if he wanted to be in this band and be a team player, he would be here right now.
I wanted to go in the studio in June. My whole plan, I had a baby in April, and I wanted to have 2 months with my baby, with my wife, first child for her. I wanted to really be used to it. And I said, we'll start in June.
He's in a different part of his life. He's considerably older than us. And I understand that. You know, if you're not interested in doing something, just say you're not interested.
Truthfully, I was kicked out of this band. I was forced out of this band. To be the politest way I could say it.
Next came a classically ill-fated attempt to rekindle the original Van Halen flame by reuniting with Roth at the 1996 Video Music Awards.
How did this happen? Did somebody call somebody? Did you show up on their door?
The battles that were between us, the feuding and fussing, it rings like off of your ear after a while.
Yeah, right. Backstage, the semi-reunion, or whatever it was, fell apart in record time.
We get shuffled off to the first mob press conference, and everyone, yelling, screaming questions, and Dave just wasn't answering any of them. He was doing his popping, best piece with the pops. So I just kind of walked up and said, look, there's not going to be an immediate tour or anything because we're not doing a nostalgia trip, cash in. It's not about the money, okay? In December, I need a complete hip replacement, which is going to take me at least three to 4 months to recover from. All of a sudden, Dave's vibe changed. He goes, well, hey, tonight's about me, man, not your hip. And I just said, you ever speak to me like that again, you better be wearing a cup. And that was it.
As a human being, you know, these guys are great. Both Hagar and Roth.
We had a lot of fun together over the years.
They're great human beings,
Time to
but I'll
move
tell you,
on.
some of the stuff that comes out of their mouths is just beyond belief.
I'm a survivor, man. You could take all my clothes, everything I've got, throw me out in the desert, and I'll come back.
People say, you seem pretty calm about well, it's not the thrill and the Halen of Van Halen and the MTV Awards a year ago. Yeah, that's because, like, what's new?
Yeah.
We never got along. We have not got along in 10 years or whatever. And out of that comes great music.
Is this our cue to go?
Not yet.
They'll call us.
So David wrote a book, David Lee Roth. It's called Crazy from the Heat.
David, could you follow me, please?
You know, David's got weird thoughts.
I would imagine that.
There he comes. There's David. Hey, looking better than ever. All muscular and fit. Hey, man. Good seeing you, Dave.
Good morning.
Dave always looks like...
I'm used to
Dave always looks like he's in a constant state of shock. I don't know.
It's not really a constant state of shock.
You always look like you're amazed.
I think...
Why are you so amazed?
Well, whenever I come in here, there's like energy coming from here, Howard. Most people have an aura that's like yellow or pastel. You have an aura like burning rubber.
Yeah, I do. That's very true.
Really?
When you walk in here, it's like this is like the energy. This is a barrage here.
It's hard to believe when you walk in here with the energy that's coming out.
Rubber aura.
And this is my first time in the brand new studio.
Yes, isn't this professional?
Well, I used to know my way around, and now you walk into this. This is like a tarmac. This is like a launch pad.
Yeah, people are. Anybody
Where's
who's
the
been
plane?
anybody who's been up at our old studio can't even believe that we have this much room. It's like, wow, like maybe this is a real show or something.
Yeah, this is kind of show.
Is this for the strippers?
Yeah. In fact, we put a runway down for all the
Why
strippers.
don't we have a pole at this point?
Yeah, why don't we get a big stripping
You
pole?
should have a pole that goes up and down. You could have that installed.
You know, I was at my gym the other day, and they were playing the Van Halen greatest hits, which is half you, half Sammy, or something. I don't know how they split it up.
I get this is like getting is this Pope 4, Pope 5, Pope Pius, whatever. Which singer is it? Gary
I know,
Hagar,
yeah.
Chironi, what?
It's weird. It is weird because.
Yes, which Van Halen is it?
Yeah, but everyone sits there and goes, man, the David Lee years.
Of course.
Boy, those were the
It's
years.
a little difficult to tell who's even in the band now. When I was up there, I used to jam with a guitar player and a drummer, and now I'm jamming with therapists and psychics and wives and household pets. And
Hey, one of the things I read in your new book that surprised me, you went to a psychiatrist when you were 6 years old. Is that true?
Maybe I missed the date there. It was probably closer to 5 years old. That
Oh,
was the
really? You might have messed up.
What were you doing?
Well, they accused me of being in an eternal state of awe.
The same one you're in now.
David, seriously, why would your parents send you to a shrink at 5 years old? Because that's kind of a heavy move, a 5-year-old.
Well, at that point in time, nobody understood the idea of white sugar,
Right.
What we all started off our breakfast with a bowl of tricks with 3 spoonloads of sugar.
Boy,
and
that's the truth.
And the toast with the butter and the cinnamon on one side and the white sugar on the other.
You're saying you had a food allergy?
Oh, my
No,
God.
he's a sugar addict.
Yeah,
You know what, Chris?
kaboom.
You know what Chris Rock says about food allergies? He goes, America's the only country that has food allergies.
That's true.
He says, what kind of food? How can you be allergic to food?
Well, eating
Because
sugar.
you go to Africa, there ain't one goddamn food
Yeah,
allergy.
but they don't have refined sugar.
Yeah, they actually
either.
don't. No, I know a lot of people. You know who said that? Jack LaLanne said he went almost insane as a kid from
Oh,
sugar.
yeah, I'd be so hyped up, and then by, you know, halfway to school on the bus, I'd have to fall asleep. If you give me a Snickers, you'll get 20 minutes of my best material, and then I got to fall asleep, and you don't want to keep me awake.
I bet your parents had their hands full, man. It must have been something at
Did they
5
have
years old.
any other children?
Yeah, you got a sister, right?
Yeah,
and your sister's a
absolutely.
nutritionist.
Yeah, that's right.
Which really helps because like she could keep David Lee in line.
she knew.
There's a little bit
All
of a yin-yang thing coming there because the basic 5 food groups to me mean sugar, starch, fat, grease, and alcohol.
So, because David once called me. Remember, I was on the air complaining about that I got too much fat on me and stuff. And he says, "Hey, listen, man, my sister's a really good nutritionist." It was very nice of him, actually. He called up and said, "Hey, my sister's a nutritionist. Maybe she could help you." You know,
You were getting ready for your picture for your movie.
Right, exactly. And I said to him, "Yeah," I said, "Yeah," because I'm doing something wrong." And he goes, "Listen, my sister's totally cool." He says, "Because like me, I gotta have beer."
And she put that in the diet?
That's in the diet. He says, "I gotta have a couple of bagels."
She works it out.
In the diet.
She knows
I go, "What do you mean?"
me.
I said, "What is it? Your sister puts beer in the diet?" He goes, "Hey, I'm not doing any diet. I can't have beer."
No wonder she's a good nutritionist.
like, yeah.
She gives you whatever you want.
How many people do you run into who say, okay, you got to change your whole life, you got to change
You can't
everything
do it.
that you're used to? You can't do that, and even if you try, how long can you maintain that? You wake
Right.
up at a certain time of day.
You gotta have some fun. Is beer that important to you, though?
I think probably as a token thing.
Right,
at
yeah,
this
you
point.
gotta
If
have
I,
it.
You know, I
Right.
can only drink maybe 2 or 3, and then it's the same thing. Isn't
Right.
it?
But it's important. Why not? That's absolutely
It's
true.
symbolic, you know.
So this past MTV Awards, MTV called David. This is what I heard. Tell me if any of this is true. They wanted you and Sammy Hagar to walk out together on the MTV Awards. Is that true or false?
I never heard anything about
Never
it.
heard anything about that?
This was a rumor.
But I know you would never do something like that because that would be ridiculous.
You know, there are so many convolutions to what's going on with Van Halen, and we start to get real serious about it. And I think this music's way too important to take so seriously, for starters.
Right.
And who's going to play with what, and who's going to produce what with.
Right.
I don't know Sam Hagar at all. I've never even shook his hand. I've never even seen the guy.
I've had him on the show. He's a nice guy. He is a nice guy, right, Robin?
Yeah.
Nice is the word that you use when you don't really want to say what you want to say. What is it? What did you really feel?
No, I always told you. I thought you were the quintessential frontman for Van Halen. That I'm not a big Sammy fan, the Sammy Van Halen thing.
Didn't you have their manager on here as well?
Did we?
He made a big impression on you too. Yeah, Ray Daniel.
Oh, yeah, and what did we do? And what happened? What happened, Gary?
We had the manager on. He's with that new Stone Temple Pilots group talk show.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, right.
Is
Yeah.
he still managing Van Halen?
I think so. He's got the Stone Temple without their original singer, and
Right.
he's got Van Halen without David Lee.
Yeah, he seems to like get into
That's what happens
get
when
rid
he
of
gets a hold
the
of a
lead
band.
singer. But no, I mean, you know, but Sammy had a lot of crap to say about you. I know that. So it's
Well,
like,
that
you know,
was, you know.
Right.
Everybody was saying stuff about everybody.
That silly Roth, man, he is a silly dude. You know, I don't know this cat, man, but he is silly, you know?
It's a weird situation. Let's put it that way.
I think that what it boils down to is what's happening with Ed Van Halen, the guitar player.
Here's what
He's got
I
his
am.
own logic. He's got his own time frame.
Right.
I don't like the Unabomber.
Yeah, exactly. Let's put it this way. I'm a Sammy fan when Sammy is here, okay? And then when he's not here, I can trash him. How's that? We'll make that deal. All right, now listen, we got to talk about
Sammy
the book.
knows that. Sammy's, he's very cool with that.
Yeah. Sammy knows that. Sammy knows when he's here, I'll be nice to him. And then when he leaves, when you and I are on, we'll just trash the crap out of him. That's it. That's the way it works.
Sammy does his job. He does well. Sammy's a singer, but it's the difference between a single word.
Right.
Sammy's a singer. David Lee's the singer.
All right, let's get down to the book. You say a lot of interesting things, okay? Let's get into it. All right. First of all, David Lee Roth wrote Crazy from the Heat by himself.
Okay.
Which is unusual because most people usually get somebody to write their book for them.
Usually it's an interview kind of format where they hire somebody
Right, you
for
talk
you and
to
you
them.
sit
Right.
and you do interviews and what have you. And what we came up with was a 1,300-page manuscript, and
Right.
then I hired a fella to cut that down to the 360 pages that is your standard book scenario.
Because if I know David, he must have written a whole bunch of scenarios. He must have gone on and on and
Are there a
on.
lot of pictures in the book?
There's a whole lot of pictures, you know.
Yeah, they're pictures. It's a nicely put together book. Okay, you named Van Halen. Why did you do that?
Well, I think the original name that they wanted was Rat Salad, which was the name of a Black Sabbath song at some point in the early 70s.
You would have been like a
or what
Black
have you.
Sabbath tribute band or something.
Well, let's make something that's going to have some longevity to it, that has a little bit of shadow and a little mystery. You're not sure what a Van Halen is. It's like
Right.
Santana. That could be the name of a place. It could be the name of a person. It could
Right,
even
but
be
didn't
the
that
name
give the
of a
boys,
boat.
didn't they give the Van Halen brothers a little too much power in the band, like that they had the name? You know what I mean? I'm surprised surprised you went with that. Why not Roth?
Single syllables never swing.
Van Roth, Lee Roth. I don't know, something.
Yeah,
All right. All right. Your personal best, I'm just jumping around the book, all right? Your personal best sexually was 5 women at once.
All right, now
how do you do that? What are all the people doing?
You have to finish out the paragraph there. I said there were 5 girls there at once, and it was sort of confounding at the time, and so I just resorted to like volleyball, and I would go change, and I was more like in the peanut gallery than anything else.
It is an amazing thing to be David Lee Roth, the lead singer for Van Halen, and have you, I mean, I saw it firsthand.
Your pick, yeah.
David mentions this in his book. I saw it firsthand because just by coincidence, when I was a disc jockey in Detroit, my first week on the air, that's when these guys were playing in Detroit, and I was on the same floor with them, which is really weird.
Oh,
that was when Life magazine was with us, and there's pictures from that in the book.
It was just weird coincidence. And I was on the same floor, and there were just women banging on doors. They thought I was part of the entourage. They would be David, David, and like they're banging on the doors and stuff, and I'm like, David's not here.
We had the 2 little midget bodyguards during that time,
it was,
too.
it was
the
like
guys
a traveling,
on the back of the book.
Yeah, it was a traveling story, and I said, oh my God, these guys are having the times of their lives. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Van Halen was one of the most hallelujah tailgate backyard barbecue. Arrived 4 hours early to the gig just for the parking lot bands.
It was amazing,
and still to this day is. It's an attitude. I think it's a spirit more than anything else. That's what people want more than anything in today's range of music. So many people are getting busted for aggravated mopery.
Well, it's true.
In terms of what's musical today, what's popular today.
What was the song where you talked about that you liked? Black silk stockings with the line running up the back?
I think that's Ain't Talking About Love.
Yeah. When I was working at this radio station, women would just line up because like Van Halen would come to the station.
And everybody had the seams, right?
Every girl had black silk stockings on with the seam
and
running
that was
up the
history
back.
for all the wrong reasons, too, because at that point in time, I wasn't taking care of most of my homework like I maybe should have oughta.
Right.
And they were rewinding tape in the studio, and our producer at the time, Ted Templeman, said, Dave, are you ready to do the middle part? And I said, sure. Well, I always say sure. And when he started to roll, I didn't have any lyrics prepared.
Right.
And there were a couple of gals sitting on the couch, you know, on the other side of the glass, and I just started talking to them.
Wow. So it just happened by accident. I mean, just like just off the top of your head.
Well, I'm never going to admit I didn't do my homework.
Right. So now, okay, here we go. Let's keep going through the book, all right? This kind of struck me as odd. Before every performance, you had to get down on your hands and knees and wash the stage?
What I would do is before rehearsals were completely started, you know, once everything was set up and before we would start the first gig on a tour, is, you know, I'm always making demands upon myself.
Right.
Accelerate. Let's do the very best we can. Let's do as many details as you can possibly think of. That's what genius
Wait a second,
is.
but I say it's a little obsessive compulsive because even, isn't it true that in
I'd
hotel
say
rooms?
it's very obsessive and compulsive.
So in other words, you have a clean freak
Is this a luck thing?
It's not a clean thing at all. It's what it says is if I'm willing to get down on my hands and knees like a washerwoman and do every inch of that stage, then I've done everything in preparation I possibly could, and then I'll feel good about selling you a ticket.
Then why about in a hotel room you'll wash the floors as well, the bathroom floor and all that?
Well, that's in a different phase. That's not when you're on the road.
That's what I'm saying. Now, what are you?
I don't wash the bathroom.
You do
floor.
not?
No,
That is not true?
At the hotel, no.
What's going on
I don't know.
here?
But no, someone said that that David Lee supposedly washes the floors of his hotel rooms as well. Someone told me that.
No, what that is about is when you're putting together a project,
right?
And it's all about detailing, and it's all about, okay, can you have your energy ready? Have you done your homework? Have you really gotten every possible detail? That sets up the day.
Really?
Yeah, that sets up. That's no different than when. Don't you do martial arts now? Don't you do?
I did for a while, but
now?
I got a groin full.
Yeah, well, more about that after this. Huh? No, when you start off your first days as a white belt in old school, they make you sweep the floor. You show yourself the commitment. You're going to sweep up that whole gym floor before you go and do your thing.
I never watched.
White belted that way.
Hell no. When I white belted, I just paid the guy. Said, "Give me a brown belt." That's the way it works, man. I got some dough. You were questioned by the cops after a spanking incident. This almost sounds like a Marv Albert kind of story. What was this all about?
Well, it had nothing to do with the spanking, as it turns out. There was a young lady who requested a spanking at one point along the way.
Right.
And I've read about such a thing.
Right. So you gave it a try.
Well, we
give it just a little bit of a try. You know, you never know. You want to be careful.
Right.
You don't want to leave your imprint.
Right.
So
You want to leave fingerprints on her ass. Yeah.
Yeah, and evidently somebody had started a fire backstage after the gig, which I had no knowledge of. And as we were driving down the road later that morning, we had a whole squad of highway patrol pull us over. And we spent the entire day sitting in a dusty compound, you know, in a barbed wire fence and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this little gal, all I did was give her a little love tap, a lot of role playing, you know, like your wife said to you, that voice that you make, you know, you make that voice, you know, whatever. And the whole time I'm thinking, my God, I didn't put any muscle into this. This was just fooling around. I don't know, maybe she got into the car and she was driving down the interstate and a tiny little, I don't know, a tiny little blood clot formed from a pop pimple on her tush, and it somehow got into her metabolism and maybe raced up into her cranium, and she looked in the rearview mirror, it got through her neck and it killed her.
Right.
I have no idea.
Right. So you're saying that on the day that this building burned down,
nothing burned down. A trash can burned down.
Oh, so they wanted to question that.
And they wanted to question. Yeah, they wanted to know what was going on.
And were you afraid they would question that woman and then the whole spanking incident?
I was terrified. I thought, oh my God, she went home and crashed her car.
Spanking.
Oh,
I
see. Okay, I got it. All right. You know what, David, I need an interpreter. Thank you, Rob.
To this day, I get nauseous when I see a hairbrush.
All right, hold on now. All right. Okay, in the book you do say that Van Halen now stinks. It's a horrible band. You're very honest about that,
well,
right?
If I ain't in it, then I don't care about Van Halen. I think that's probably a better summation.
You imply that Valerie Bertinelli, Eddie's wife, is very stupid in the book.
How do I imply that? Is there a quote there?
You try to tell her the Tahiti story and she just doesn't get it. You make it like she's a little thick. True?
No, what I had said, and I just addressed the story. I don't elaborate on it.
Right.
What I had said is she had asked me, so Dave, where did you go on vacation this time? And I said we went camping on Mount Bali High.
I see.
And I could tell she was unfamiliar with the name Bali High. And I said, you know, like in the play South Pacific, where Bloody Mary says Bali High.
And she never heard of it.
And she had never heard of it.
So what are you implying?
And I said, well, you know the Led Zeppelin song, Immigrant Song? And she goes, yeah. And I go, you know when he goes, she goes, yeah. I said, well, that they stole from South Pacific.
Bali High.
And I'm certain to this day that she thinks Led Zeppelin wrote South Pacific.
So you had a hard time having intelligent conversation with Valerie, didn't you?
I never really had a complete dialogue conversation with Valerie since the day I shook her by the hand the first time.
Excellent. Now, when you were backstage, you talk quite a bit in your book about the MTV Van Halen, David Lee Roth reunion. One of the interesting things you say, Alex Van Halen, the drummer, collapsed backstage. You went over to help him, and all of Van Halen's security people hustled you off and wouldn't let you help him.
Yeah, you know, the fellas are in physical pain here. Okay,
Right,
you don't just wander around needing a hip replacement or whatever as you call it.
Right.
You don't constantly have back pain and neck pain and make it to the chiropractor every day. Come on, we all get little stubbed toes and a wrenched finger here. If it goes for more than 2 days, you lose sleep and it ruins your whole week.
Right.
These guys are feeling like that every single day.
What is going on?
What's that all about?
I have no idea. You know, I don't know what the medical background of it is, but you've got guys there. Poor Ed can't even walk up his own driveway.
I know.
Okay, he's got to get his hip fixed.
That's wild, isn't it? He's not that old a guy.
And his brother is the same thing.
Really? You think it's psychosomatic?
When I was up there, I don't know what it is. But it's extreme, and I wouldn't wish it on a canine. As much as we go back and forth, these guys, you know what it's like when you get a little back pain and it lasts for a couple days. It ruins everything.
That's right.
How are you going to make decisions? How are you going to make creative thoughts? How are you going to officiate over a band if you feel
maybe
like
it's the Eddie Van Halen voodoo doll you have and you keep sticking pins in it. Maybe that's what the problem is. You imply also that Valerie Bertinelli, that you could have had her, but you stuck her off onto Eddie. True or false?
No, I didn't even know who Valerie Bertinelli was the first time she walked backstage.
She wanted David Lee. And I think one of the most interesting things you write about in your book is the whole idea of being Jewish. There's a German newspaper guy comes up to you and he goes, "Are you a Jew?" Like almost like.
Well, you know, very few people approach Mick Jagger and go, "So you're a Presbyterian, huh, Mick?"
Right. Right. All of a sudden it became an issue, right?
Yeah, very few people approached the guy in, Stone Temple, whatever, and go, so, you're a Baptist, huh?
Right.
You never, ever hear that.
The guy was an anti-Semite. And you say in your book that, and this is something that is true, that Jewish people are always deluding themselves that they're part of the white race and they're accepted by white America. They are not thought of as white. Is that correct?
I think that it's probably the most hated race of people in the history of mankind. Probably.
Even more than blacks.
Well, I was thinking about that the other day, and I said, yeah, they just made us slaves. They didn't try to fry us.
Yeah, right. So the point is that you were saying, hey, listen, you actually kind of stand there and say, hey, man, I've met with a lot of anti-Semitism because I'm Jewish. These reporters would always try to make an issue out of it, right?
That was the easiest part of it. Back in, early 60s and whatnot, things were not politically correct. Things were not as balanced as they may be today. My pop just had his, 55th, 60th high school reunion back in Indiana where we used to live, and there was a Klan rally.
Right.
And during the
next door.
Right next door during the same weekend. That's in 1997.
That's right.
Count back into the 60s, 30 years ago, what have you, and it was a very different time.
Do you mostly date Jewish women?
I've dated a handful of Jewish women. I don't discriminate.
You do not?
Religion or body type or race or what have you.
Do you detect any difference between a Jewish vagina and, let's say, have you ever had a black woman, for example? Have you ever had sex with a black woman?
Yes, I have.
You have? You've had everything? Chinese?
I've had sex with a black Chinese woman.
Really? I don't doubt it at all. I believe you when you say it.
The music is the biggest slam dunk. We have not lost a single centimeter to the passage of time. And that's usually what happens when you get a rock band who reconvenes, whether it's for a song or for a tour or forever ad infinitum.
Would you work with them again? I mean, after the last fiasco.
It's... Yeah.
Yeah, you would.
Sure. But we'd have to make, a few stipulations up front. Not a whole lot of rules and a whole lot of compromises.
Right. Because when you read David's book, you can see that those guys the last time really kind of set him up.
Right.
Well, I would go up and I would sit and they'd say, we're going to have a band meeting, and there'd be 9 people there.
Right. When did we get 9 guys?
Yeah.
Sandra, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Am I? Who's
Yeah.
this?
It's Howard. Hello?
Well, I think this guy is a real pig.
Why?
Because I'm surprised with all the women that he's been with.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he doesn't have AIDS by now.
He does. That's what he's here to tell you.
Oh, he does?
David, are you a pig for having sex with all those women back then?
Absolutely not.
Do you have any regrets?
I'm going to take the 80s clause, and it was a very different time and a very different place. And just like any guy with 2 legs in his pants, when you have the opportunities that I did at the time, at the time period that I did, that I think that a lot of guys would absolutely have taken up the sword and the torch like I did. And from judging from your tone of voice, one of the first would have been your old man.
Right.
You're a real degenerate pig.
Ma'am, did he bang you?
No, he did not.
Why is she so
wouldn't
upset
let him
with
touch
David?
me with a 10-foot pole.
I have a feeling that you might have had sex with David Lee Roth.
Oh, gee, yeah, right.
Is that possible? And you're feeling a little left
Who
out?
hurt her? And she's taking it out on David.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. This is a weird attitude that women have.
Women?
What about? Yeah.
I would like.
Why?
Can I say
Why?
something?
Let me ask you something.
David's never been married.
Why can't a woman?
Of course he's never been
But wait a second. Why can't?
He uses women.
But why can't a woman be a pig? Why can't a woman be a pig?
It's his tool.
How come if a woman comes up to him and says, "Hey man, I want to have you sexually," and he says, "Okay, hey, that's great."
Why is he a pig?
I wouldn't have him sexually.
Oh, she's not answering the question.
And this is a day and an age when if Oprah Winfrey dumped her current old man and wound up with a 23-year-old stud fashion model, everybody'd be going, "Go, girl!"
Right? Yeah, but if a guy does it, he's a punk.
He was a decent guy, maybe.
Right. By the way, I don't know if you recognize this woman's voice. This is Linda McCartney on the phone.
Somebody obviously hurt her, and she's upset with David because of it.
Ma'am, I think you secretly want David Lee Roth.
I don't think so.
Really?
Far from it.
Any of my participations were entirely non-abusive.
Yeah, he's not accused of raping anyone.
Well, he raped me
Oh.
back in 1980 in a hotel room.
Well, you played hard to get.
Right.
Yeah, and I bet, Howard, you enjoyed it.
Ma'am, I bet you're a hound, though, right? Ma'am? Hello? Yeah,
I think she's
bet you're not
throwing
good
you
looking.
in on the fire here too.
I bet
Howard.
you're not good looking. Hello?
That's a pregnant pause.
I said I bet you're not a good looking woman.
Do you have a camera?
No, I do not.
Well, then you can't see what I look like.
I bet you're overweight.
What?
I bet you're overweight.
I think.
Yes.
And how do you know that?
I can tell.
You can tell.
Are you overweight? How much do you weigh?
125.
Oh, come on, tell the truth. You haven't weighed
am?
125 since high school.
I am 125.
How tall are you?
5'10".
Really? You're 125, 5'10". How big are your breasts?
I would say they're a D cup, 36.
You're saying you're a 36D, 125 pounds, 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
How old are you?
24.
This is a.
This doesn't sound 24 to me.
I guarantee you, this is Lurch.
This is Lurch.
There's no way. I can hear your fat cheeks bouncing on the phone.
Yeah, right.
Oh, please. Oh, get out of here,
Listen
you
to
crackpot.
this. It sounds like she's starting to smile, too.
David Lee.
I guess if women were throwing themselves at David, David should have ducked and dodged and found a woman like her to marry.
I didn't do anything that any average guy wouldn't
do.
do at all
Dude,
whatsoever.
I wish I was doing
if
it.
she had the opportunity, be honest.
I wish I was doing it. And what is this? You got a? Is this? Are you behind this? This new CD? It's your greatest hits, your solo greatest hits, right?
Yep, and this is since I left Van Halen here.
Right.
And it's maybe 5-6 albums worth of stuff is taken from the 5-6 albums that we've done. And whether it's California Girls or, The Skies Are Full of Spinning Steel hard rock kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we got a new single, too, called Don't Piss Me Off.
My new single is Go F Yourself. I can't give the...
I think that's a classic, too.
Yeah. Dave, thanks for coming in, man. Good luck with the book.
Thanks much.
That's right. Crazy from the Heat, everybody.
The band was named Van Halen. The brothers were named Van Halen. But for 11 glorious years, the guy out front, the master of ceremonies and god of all things rock and roll, was the Diamond One, David Lee Roth.
I woke up this morning and I felt bad. I mean, real bad, and I was aching and everything. So I called up Al and I says, Al, what happened last night, man? I feel bad. And Al says, oh man, don't you remember? He says, we were out at the hotel, at the Marquee, and everybody was drinking and partying, and about 4 o'clock, man, you bet everybody that you could fly, man, like that. And I says, oh wow, what happened? He says, oh man, luckily it was, close to the ground because you jumped out the window, man. And I says, whoa, dude, why didn't you stop me? And he says, stop you? I bet him $100 you could do it.
Dave was so popular that in 1985 he went hog wild, creating a solo project that wound up like a guided tour gone horribly, horribly wrong. Yet, it was all so right. In 1993, while strolling through New York, David decided to invest $10 of his personal money in a bag of marijuana. When the deal got busted, Dave bought himself instead a year's worth of probation.
Sure don't want to just say something to get it over with?
David didn't repent. In fact, Dave won't be repenting for anything anytime soon. Rock and roll's last man standing has still got the fine shine of a sparkling gem.
You're supposed to abase yourself ultimately, or go through some sort of therapeutic program and then regret. Like it says in the song, the only thing that I regret are the adventures that I missed.
But just when it seemed things had gone completely kaput, there were the Van Halen brothers trotting out their trophy boy one more time. And it was the last time, too.
Life goes on without me.
In 1997, Dave took up the story of why the reunion went bad in his authorized autobiography, Crazy from the Heat. Today, the Diamond One's back to what he does best. So don't expect any 3 movie deal contracts here. No restaurant franchises and no authorized official lunchboxes. Nothing but the old Dave with a new band.
I hope you like what I do. In fact, I hope you love me. I hope you love my music. And if you do, tell a friend. And if you hate it, tell an enemy, because I'm still be here tomorrow.
There was a harder edge in the power chord virility of Van Halen.
If you take a Van Halen record and you stick it in your collection, it'll melt all your other records.
Eddie Van Halen's surging riffs and David Lee Roth's cocksure swagger struck a perfect pose for the age of video. Van Halen jumped to the top of the charts, proving that nothing and nobody was too wild for 1984.
For me, this is just one big wet t-shirt contest.
I remember going to a Van Halen concert and seeing David Lee Roth in like assless pants. And here, there's all just tons of like beer drinking guys just thinking he is the greatest thing.
What are we gonna do next? You gotta do something. Sit down, Waldo.
The combination of the two was, terrific. It was just, even their bad songs were good.
No band flaunted the hard rock lifestyle of high times, hot women, and general excess more flamboyantly than Van Halen, especially with its original frontman, David Lee Roth. This was the group that inspired 1,000 hair bands like Motley Crue and Poison. With its heavy rhythm section, virtuoso guitarist, and of course Diamond Dave out front, Van Halen was custom made for MTV.
The great thing about the Hot for Teacher video is it's probably the one video where Van Halen sort of got on tape what Van Halen was kind of like.
I love the whole concept of, the little kid Van Halen band, and then the teachers. I wish I had teachers like that in my school.
I'm Hot for Teacher. The highlight of the Hot for Teacher video is when they're doing the dances, which clearly Dave has choreographed and the other guys just can't learn to save their lives. Yet they got to film it sooner or later. That's the best they're going to get it. They're doing their best to do all of these. That's really the highlight of that video.
I thought the bits where they're doing all the dancing together in their red suits, that's classic Van Halen.
That was the one video where you sort of saw the Van Halen charm sort of fully come across.
Diamond Dave, God bless the man. He's like Catskills comedy meets good rock music.
I have no musical influences, so to speak. My idols were always people like Genghis Khan or Muhammad Ali or Alexander the Great or the guy who invented McDonald's hamburgers.
The next memory of MTV was they had that contest with Van Halen. Some kid in Detroit got to go on tour with them and everything, and I remember seeing that, and I just wanted to be that guy.
We have the winner of the last weekend here tonight.
Van Halen brothers and David Lee Roth kind of need each other.
I think Van Halen is very much defined by David Lee Roth. I think anything else has just been like a cover band doing Van Halen songs.
Not interested in broadening anybody's musical horizons. We're not interested in expanding, the perfect genre of music or anything like that. We just want to rock.
Sam, did you ever think you would be here? Yeah.
Jaws dropped all over the rock world when bitter rivals and former Van Halen frontmen David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar revealed they'd make 2002 their summer of love.
David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar touring together is definitely the most shocking, surreal thing because they both think they're the ultimate headliner.
Any rivalry there may have been, well, certainly nothing can't be cured without a little Cabo Wabo tequila.
It's a rivalry that goes back decades. Roth's massive ego helped make Van Halen one of the biggest rock bands of the 70s and 80s. It was also the reason he got fired.
He was just always on, He would never open up as a human. He was always just like he was on stage.
The band replaced him with Sammy Hagar.
How's it feel to be in this band? It feels great.
After a decade with Hagar, Van Halen sent him packing as well.
Come on, baby, finish what you started.
Then in 2002, the two middle-aged rockers met for the first time and decided to bury the hatchet.
David and Sammy maybe realized, yeah, we hate each other, but we hate Van Halen even more.
I get up, and nothing gets me down.
On their heavyweight champs of rock and roll tour, Sam and Dave will each play a 90-minute set and alternate as opening act.
They've got that kind of prima donna age, so it'll be fun to see how these two psyches work together.
In the end, they should mud wrestle or something at the end of the show.
And as for the brothers Van Halen...
Well, I'm not sure what the brothers think, and I'm not sure I even really care. I think probably the two biggest words up there on Howdy Doody Mountain now are uh-oh.
All right, I'm excited because
On the phone is Sammy Hagar, and walking into my studio right now is David Lee Roth, who, the two of them, I can't even, there's David Lee, look at him. And looking good, too. Looking happy and healthy. Hey, David.
Hello there.
Hey, man.
Good to see you.
What's happening, brother? Take a seat. David always looks so happy.
I'm delighted to be here.
Good. Let me get Sammy on the phone. Have you met with Sammy face-to-face, by the way?
I've met with Sam twice now. We're actually colleagues. Sam, are you there?
Sam, are you there?
Howard.
Hey, how you doing, Sammy?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, Dave?
Outstanding.
Well, I got to tell you something. I never would have believed like the Russians would be our friends, and more importantly, I never would believe that you two would work together.
Bono called me and told me I had to do it for world peace, Howard.
Let me go to Sammy first. Sammy, I'm assuming you always told me over the years you don't need money, so it's not for the money you're doing this. Why are you doing it?
I'm doing it because Dave called me and said, well, he had someone call me to see if I was interested. I said, I think it's a great idea. I think the whole concept is just to do with rock and roll. It's to do with the history of Van Halen, and it's just to do with shoving it up the brothers' asses and not getting off their asses and coming out and doing it with us.
That's what I thought. Is this a big FU, Dave, to the guys in Van Halen? In other words,
That ain't all of it, see, but that definitely is what kind of motivated me a little.
As you can see, Sam and I can get along. Henceforth, I can pretty much hang with anybody. I think, in retrospect, it is a little bit for Eddie Van Heineken.
Is this your way of proving to the audience at large that you're not the guy who broke up Van Halen, that you're actually easy to get along with, and that Van Halen is difficult to get along with?
Again, it's not my original ambition, but in retrospect, that certainly demonstrates.
What was it like when you sat home and came up with this idea to tour with Sammy Hagar?
I'm amazed that he was the guy who made the phone call.
What was the phone call?
He put somebody up to it.
Who did you have make that phone call?
I had my new assistant, Matt, do it.
Okay.
And we called Irving Azoff, Sam's manager.
Okay. And what was that phone call like when you first, I guess Sammy said, okay, to your assistant, I would like to talk to Dave about this. What was it like when you called Sammy?
I didn't speak to Sam on the phone. I met him at a meeting, and the first thing that I said is, hey, there's been an acre of bad blood, a river of bad blood through us here.
Right.
And it's time to go on, something in the future. It's unity. I think maybe you even said it. If we can do it, next stop Palestine, huh?
Right. It does seem amazing to me. And Sammy, when you were face-to-face with David Lee Roth, was there revulsion at first out of all the negative things he said about you? Were you really turned off?
Dave never said anything that was true about me. See, the only time things hurt, Howard, is when someone says something that's true about you. Deep inside, something you know is really true, that really bothers you. Well, the kind of things Dave said, you know what they are. I'm sure you got them right in front of you. You can read the list right down there.
Well, at least, Sam, at least I didn't call you a goofball. Huh?
Exactly.
All right, let's go to the tape.
I'd have been pissed off.
Let's go to the tape. Here's David Lee Roth on Sammy Hagar.
There we go. I knew you had it. I knew it.
Well, Sammy is a mindless little bridge troll drone. Everything that comes out of his mouth is word barf. And it's
right.
Sammy is my boy. He works for me, man.
That's right.
He's my
He's
bitch.
your dog.
That's
He's
right.
your bitch.
And when he says my name, we just sell that many more records.
That's
just
all.
Reminds people of the glorious past even more. He doesn't even know it.
Is that still true, Dave?
I hereby regret saying anything bad about anybody in my entire lifetime.
Well, apparently Sammy has stopped singing those songs and paying Dave.
Yeah.
Actually,
Sammy?
I think Sam's bass player Mona is going to punch me in the mouth. Is
Sammy,
that...
any comment about that?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
No, do I look like somebody's bitch?
Here is Sammy Hagar talking about David Lee Roth.
Is what I'm saying is like, I think Dave's trying to be sexy, and I just want to let him know that I don't think women like that kind of stuff.
They don't. It's too femme.
It's too goofy.
It's too goofy. It's just
He's
great.
calling the wrong
Women
crowd,
like construction workers and stuff.
Yeah, right. They're like manly men.
Yeah, guys with belts on with, with hammers and stuff.
I understand what you're trying to say. What about that?
Little Elvis is famous.
Serious, Howard? Did I sound like I was really meaning what I was saying there?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
That's it. Hey,
by the way,
let's take it up on deck.
Dave, we're busted, man. We're busted. Howard has busted us. This whole thing's going to blow up because of you, Howard. We had it all together. Now you're trying to ruin it.
How about a little credit to Howard Stern, who in 1997, during a Sammy Hagar interview, I said to him, What about a Sam and Dave tour? What about the rumor that you and David Lee Roth are forming a duet?
I would love to meet Dave. I never met Dave, but you got to admit, come on, Howard. I'm not trying to burn the guy. He is really a goofball, man.
Whoa! You call me a goofball.
Oh, Lord.
Wow. Isn't it true that Sammy Hagar, when you approached him about doing this tour, Sammy said, yes, I'll do it, but I have to open every night. Is that true or false?
I think I said that.
You said you wanted to open every night. Did you?
You know what?
No, Sammy, you
I
said...
had to get up off all that stuff, Howard. I really did, man. You know, it was tough. It was a real ego shock to me when Dave said we're going to flip-flop, and I said, you're crazy. I haven't opened for anyone since 1979. I don't plan on opening for you, Dave, or anybody else.
You do have your contention is that Van Halen had the bigger hits with you.
Yeah, that's up to the people, man. You know, when I kick off Right Now, or if I kick off Dreams, or if I kick off Why Can't This Be Love, you don't think that whole place is going to be up shaking their asses and singing, you're crazy.
Well, Dave, you don't think much of the post-David Lee Roth Van Halen. You don't think much of those songs, but...
Howard, I'm in contest with the entire rest of the planet, much less Sam Hagar.
Right.
And as far as, what I've written with the Van Halens, I'm eminently proud of. If anything else, this is a testimonial to what we did together. It's
So
not
David
so
Lee
much
Roth,
an insult as it is a salute.
Sammy,
But you don't think they'll be rocking for Hot for Teacher?
Of course they will.
I'm a fan myself.
Knees and elbows for days. Every single song that I do, people are going, oh, I know this song. I love that song.
There was two eras that worked.
Yeah,
okay? Two eras, and we're going to go out and do them. I mean, it isn't like just, I'm not saying here one's better than the other. I think they were both great. Every record I've ever
No, Sam, I'm not saying that one era was better than the other either. I'm saying I'm better than you.
But
I think Sammy's saying because he had the bigger hits, he should close the show.
Bigger hits.
Sammy, what about what Dave just said?
He says Sammy Hagar thinks he should close the show because Sammy Hagar says, as a solo artist, I have been a headliner since 1979 without Van Halen.
You got to watch out when they start speaking in third
After they were
person.
long gone, I'm still a headliner, and that's why I think I should. I've sold a few records myself.
Slow down, Sam. Slow down.
Can
You lost me a paragraph ago. What?
When I play I Can't Drive 55, it's going to have people up shaking their asses and one way to rock the same shit.
I can tell.
Absolutely. It's all good.
Well, Sam, what Dave is saying is that he is going to go out there and prove that he's a better performer than you. And
he can do anything he wants.
He can do
anything he wants.
Are you guys only going to sing Van Halen songs?
I'm going to pretty much dwell on it. And the times when I was quarterback for the band, that's as familiar as the Nike swoosh or the McDonald's arches in America.
Because that's what the audience wants, right?
Absolutely.
Sammy, would you agree?
No, I mean, I'll do about 6 Van Halen songs out of about 15.
And what will you do? Some Sammy Hagar solo material?
Of course.
Okay. And Dave, you will
I might even play some Howard Stern songs,
And Dave, you will stick mostly to Van Halen.
It's so familiar, Howard. When both New York teams took the field for the World Series, they both played Running with the Devil. How can I defy something like that?
Sammy, what song do you open up with? If let's say
I open with a song called Shaka Doobie.
Shaka Doobie, and then and David Lee, what do you open with?
I've brought a smile to the hips of people everywhere. It doesn't matter what I open.
What's your opening
musically,
song?
But we start off with Hot for Teacher.
Wow.
The
First
most
song out of
the most bombastic, over the top.
Hot
for Teacher. I got my pencil.
You see, Sammy, you got to open with a Van Halen tune.
I don't got to do anything.
Yes, you do. You got to.
I'm a professional.
He's opening up
with we're back.
Sammy,
I'm a professional.
Sammy, he's opening with Hot for Teacher. You got to go with
Shaka Doobie ain't gonna do it.
Wait a minute. How long do you play? How long does each set last?
Wait a second, Sammy.
Hour and a half.
You gotta open with a
Greatest hits. I back to back it. I don't even bother talking in between the songs. Yeah, we do over.
You know what you got to
songs.
do? You got to top Dave. Play Smoke on the Water or anything. I don't care.
We all came down.
I do the same songs. That's what I do.
Hey, Howard.
Yeah.
I'm 34 years old, so I'm in the Van Halen generation. I was a huge fan. And I think if I went to this show and David Lee opened, after I heard Jamie's Crying, Ain't Talking About Love, Running with the Devil, Panama, I love Sammy Hagar. He's a good guy. I would never turn on him. But after I heard those songs, I'd say show's over, man.
There is no question about it. Dave got his people that are going to think he's better every night. I got my people going to think I'm better every night.
Sammy.
I am playing on the show that I would do that I think is the best thing I can do on stage. I'm not just going to go up there and say, hey, I used to be the singer of Van Halen. I'm going to go out there and say, I'm Sammy Hagar.
Well, I'm
okay?
going to go up there and say
anybody
I
that
still
don't
am
like
the
that, they
singer
can
of Van
come later on
Halen,
the
and I'm
Tuesday
Diamond
open.
David Lee Roth, baby.
Wait a second.
Exactly. It's going to be fun.
Here's what you do if you guys have any balls. You split the stage in half.
There you go.
Battle of the bands.
There you go.
Bam.
I'm sure Dave's difficult, like I said. I mean, hey, I wouldn't want to be around a guy that act like that all the time. You know?
Right. Be
Starts,
hard.
you know, bumping and grinding in the middle of the street and stuff. You know, walking down the street, probably stops and does his little number. You know,
Right.
It's too silly.
Sammy, why is it important to you to headline? Why? Who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah.
Do you think Dave's hard to follow?
Howard, it's important to every person in this business to headline because that is where it's at. And Dave knows it, I know it, otherwise there wouldn't be an issue here. The person that headlines has the advantage. You get full darkness in the outdoor situations. You get full darkness, full light. You come on like you're the big star.
Right.
People ain't milling around in the audience when you're
Unless you don't need
show.
all full lights
so-
and full sound and full stage.
It's where it's at. We both get full sound and full stage no matter what. But you don't get
Sammy.
full darkness, and you don't get sometimes a full house because some people can't be there at 7:30,
Sammy.
8 o'clock.
Right.
You're not afraid to follow Dave. You want to follow Dave.
No. I'm not afraid to follow anybody.
Right.
But I bet you somebody's afraid to follow me. I mean, if I've never been allowed to open for anybody. That's how I became
I got
a
to say
headliner,
that going
'cause no one would open
from
for me.
me
no one
to
would
you
allow me
is
to
like
open.
going from speedballs to milkshakes, Sam.
Whoa!
I'm sorry.
Look out!
Well, you know, I think this is what makes this show great for the fans. I really do. Because honest to God,
This isn't going to
when
last
I'm
more.
Throw the seatbelt away.
This is not going to last.
I want to make this guy wish he'd never did this, okay? And that's the idea of it. And I'm sure he's going to try to do the same thing.
Sam, I made everything you're not,
good.
plus a silo full of 200 proof testosterone. Let's party, pal.
So in a way,
Whatever
hold on a
that
second. I'm a
means.
little shocked by what I'm hearing. In other words, Sammy's attitude really seems to be, hey, listen, man, I'm going out there to blow you off the stage and prove to the fans once and for all that I'm the
he's
guy.
Absolutely.
That's what his
Absolutely.
attitude is.
But it
Sounds like a
not
lot of
because I
concern.
dislike Dave. I'm going to make him work even harder, and hopefully vice versa. He stirs me up.
Sam is on the extra bike.
Break it out of me. I'm ready.
Sam's pumping wiffle weights. He's getting ready.
I'm ready.
Are you
wait
bringing
a
out the
minute.
bass player from Van Halen? Are you bringing Michael Anthony with you?
You know what? Mikey's welcome, but I don't think I think the brothers would kill him.
Yeah, but the brothers haven't done anything in half a decade. You should bring him out and do the sound with him, and I might think about jamming with that. Lose Mona and get Mikey in there.
Sammy, why are you friends with Michael Anthony when he's one of the guys who threw you out of your band?
Michael Anthony
He
had
was
nothing to
not
do
the
with throwing
bad
me
guy.
out of
He
the
was
band.
only the messenger.
Exactly. Michael Anthony wasn't
do you
even
believe
the
that?
messenger. They
course
hid
I
him in
believe
the
it.
back of somebody's trunk or something when they came in and made the phone call to me. Mikey's a good guy.
So you
He's
hate
real.
Alex? You hate Alex? You guys hate Alex and
I
Eddie?
don't hate anybody, but those guys weren't cool. They owe me an apology.
What about Eddie's cancers, alleged cancer? What's going on with that? You think that the guy would mellow a little bit? Have any of you been in touch with him about that?
Not recently.
I haven't.
No.
I don't know what's cooking with that.
Does he have cancer?
Yeah.
That is the question. That you're asking that, the king of all media?
Yeah.
And you don't know the answer indicates that there's a severe question.
So there's
here.
such
I
bad
don't know
blood that
what's
even when the
cooking on it all.
guy, even when the guy gets ill, like I saw in the Ramones, the guys had such a hatred of Joey that some of them did, that they would not even get in touch with Joey.
No, if Ed was seriously ill, and I've talked to people in the camp, I would certainly make the phone call and wish him goodwill, and I would go down and give the guy the biggest hug he's ever had if I thought it was time for that. But I don't think it's time for that, and the guy pissed me off, and he owes me a phone call. That's all there is to it.
I
If
hope
Ed
that
was
Eddie
seriously
is
sick, I would feel
healthy. I
horrible,
hope
Howard.
he's
From the
well.
bottom of my heart, I'd feel horrible.
I hope he's doing really well, and come the time that I find out that he is doing really, really well, I'll plant my foot so deep in his butt he'll think I grew there.
All right, I'm going to flip this friggin' coin.
All right.
You
the-
call it, Sam.
This
Dave,
is being.
hey, I'm asking for your permission. I know you like tails. Well, I like to have heads. Is that good?
All right,
Heads
so
for Sammy?
Head.
Was that a stab at humor?
Sammy.
No, you're the one that told me when we were going to flip the blonde, you would take tails.
Okay.
Oh.
Sammy.
I mean, you know, do we
Sam-
have to flip a coin to see who gets heads or tails first? Should we do that?
Yeah. No, we're cool. All right, so you want heads,
I want heads.
and David's going to take tails.
First of all, if you guys think I trust you two guys in the studio together with me here in California.
Listen to this.
I got a camera on this.
You know,
it's
I'm-
okay. I'm going to flip it.
Exactly. I need a witness.
I'm the patron saint
you're
of
not.
larceny.
I will
Right?
tell you what happened.
I'm going to flip it, and then I'm going to let it hit the floor here or hit the desk, and whatever it says, I will read out. You can trust me.
And
I like
here we
both
go.
of you guys.
You got a drum roll?
Sammy Hagar has heads. This is for the first concert. Where is the first concert, by the way?
Cleveland.
Hello, Cleveland.
All right, Cleveland's the opening of the tour. When is that?
29th
Oops.
May.
May 29th.
Dave.
All right.
Ticketmaster.com. They got all the details. Okay, here you go. I don't even know how to flip a coin.
Just go.
Come on.
Here we go.
All right,
Get
here we
it
go.
on your thumb. Get it up there. Oh my God, that was
He
a
really
terrible
doesn't.
Now which one?
form.
Now which one is this?
Oh,
What is that?
again. What are
Is
you
that?
doing?
Oh,
me
it's
see.
tails. It's tails.
I headline.
Dave wins.
Tails. It headlines.
I headline. It's just
It
like
headline.
biblical.
It
Dave
headlines.
closes the first night. Is that right, Dave? Is that what you...
I close the first night.
Right the hell on.
I'll see you there.
Right, you know
What
what?
time is ignition for me? 9:15. Outstanding.
Is
The
anybody
first
gonna
thing we ordered up was
grandstand?
the backstage stereo. Come on.
Are you happy about this?
I'm delighted.
You're delighted.
Sammy, you're not going to grandstand now and play longer and wait.
I
and
would
make-
never do that.
All right. All right.
Why
I'm
did
a
you have?
professional.
Why do you
Robin,
have?
I'm a professional.
Okay.
You guys can, if I wasn't a professional, I wouldn't be on this damn show at 5:30 a.m. California time.
That's
Let me tell you
right.
something, man. I'd be sleeping it off.
Will
But listen,
Gary Sharon be carrying your amps?
Gary Sharon's welcome to come out and just say hi to the folks if he would like.
I think Gary was just a kind of an unfortunate blip on the screen, and I think what you have here is flavor of the summer, huh?
Right.
My opinion has always been, Howard, if you want to know the truth, that it's the first time we're going to have any problems. It's the time that I open. That's why when I picked heads, I was hoping I would win, and I was going to say I will open the first show.
Oh.
Because then the troubles will start right then into the competition.
The very next
will start from
concert.
that very second. Because that's how it's going to start getting heated. Dave's going to go, oh my God, I got to go on after that, and he's going to go out and he's going to kick some biggest ass he can possibly
Sam, the
do.
only
This
problem
way
that
you
I'm
won't be
going to
some
have
lazy
is the
asshole up
stain
there.
you're going to leave on the floor when you leave.
Oh, geez.
Oh, this is getting good, man.
Dave, you don't have an ego, do you?
It's as big as Boston, girlfriend.
Well, listen, I wish both you guys luck. The Song for Song Tour, the Heavyweight Champs of Rock and Roll Tour.
This is going to be fun.
This is going to be
If
fun.
it gets to New York, I got to be there.
We will.
Because they're both going to kick butt on stage.
It's going to be a mighty time.